My phone screen was glowing at me like a passive-aggressive nightlight. One unread message from Lu Ruyan, my girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend. Chengdong, let's break up, sent. 1 month ago. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Love that for me. It was 11:47 p.m. I crushed my last cigarette into a cold cup of instant noodles. Yeah, I'm that guy, and stared at the proposal on my screen. Draft number 8. My eyelids weighed about 40 pounds each. Just 5 minutes, I mumbled, dropping my forehead onto my arms. I woke up choking. Not on bad coffee. Not on my own drool. On the most disgusting cocktail of smells a human nose should never encounter. Mud, blood, and something burnt. My stomach did a backflip. My ears were full of metal clanging and screaming. Except the screams weren't human. Not even close. I was face down in wet dirt. I looked up. Big mistake. A thing, a bull-headed, human-bodied, absolute unit of a monster, stood over me, muscles stacked like boulders, eyes red with 0 pupils, swinging a chipped axe directly at my face. My brain checked out. My body took over. I rolled, scrambled up, and ran. Made it about 8 steps. Then something hit my back like a freight train made of pain. Shoulder blade? Destroyed. Vision? Gone. Last thing I did was grab whatever my fingers touched. Now, normally this is where the story ends. Guy dies. Roll credits. Send flowers. Nope. Bang. I shot upright in my office chair, so hard it slammed into the filing cabinet. Heart going like a jackhammer. Back soaked in cold sweat. Shirt plastered to my skin like cling wrap. The screen said 004. I looked out the window. Empty street. Yellow streetlights. Absolutely nothing happening. Just a regular, boring, beautiful, safe Tuesday night. A dream. Obviously a dream. Had to be a dream. Except my right hand was clenched around something. A necklace made of animal teeth. 7 fangs on a rough leather cord. The biggest one was thick as my thumb, tip worn flat, root still yellowish. The smallest was the size of a fingernail with a chip missing. The whole thing smelled like a petting zoo that had never been cleaned. Ever. I stared at it. My scalp went numb. Cold air crawled up the back of my skull. Not a dream. I shoved the necklace into the deepest corner of my desk drawer. Opened the drawer. Closed it. Opened it again. Still there. Closed it. Opened it one more time. Yep. Still there. Still stinking. What the hell? Didn't sleep the rest of the night. Smoked half a pack. Kept replaying that bull-headed freak's face, those dead red eyes, that axe coming down. The floor fan clicked back and forth. My desk lamp was the only light on the entire floor. By sunrise, I'd almost convinced myself it was some kind of overtime hallucination. But my fingertips still smelled like blood and dirt, and denial has its limits. Quick backstory on my wonderful life. My best friend, Li Hao, talked me into pooling everything. Savings, credit cards, even a mortgage, 5.8 million yuan total, to take on freelance projects together. Li Hao then grabbed all the money and vanished like a magician's rabbit. Left me with nothing but debt shaped like a mountain. I'd been sleeping at the office for days. My landlord had sent over a dozen messages about rent. I couldn't even bring myself to open them. That morning I zoned out in a meeting, and my boss chewed me out in front of everyone. Then, right on schedule like clockwork from hell, the debt collectors called. I watched the unknown number flash on my screen, hands shaking, and then, I don't even know why, I yanked open the drawer, tossed the phone in, and pulled out the tooth necklace instead. In the sunlight, the enamel on the fangs had a faint shine. The leather cord's grain was sharp and clear. Still smelled like a yak's armpit. And that's when a completely insane thought hit me. If last night was real, if my pen and paper went there, and this necklace came back here, then maybe. That thought stuck in my throat like a fishbone. Couldn't swallow it, couldn't spit it out. I waited until 11:59 p.m. Deep breath. Eyes closed. Waiting. Seconds passed. Or minutes. Hard to tell. I opened my eyes to the smell of rotting leaves. No blood this time. Just forest. Trees everywhere. Sunlight leaking through the canopy. Thick carpet of dead leaves. Soft and squishy underfoot. My ballpoint pen was still in my hand. I checked my arms. Legs. Everything attached. Good start. Major improvement over last time. I walked around for about 30 minutes, and then I froze. 3 meters away, poking out of the bushes, a plant with fan-shaped leaves and little red berries on top. Wild ginseng. My heart launched itself into my throat. Back home, people paid stupid money for this stuff. I dropped to my knees and started digging with my ballpoint pen, carefully, gently, treating every tiny root hair like it was made of gold. Because honestly, it basically was. This thing could buy me time on the debt. The yellowish-white root emerged slowly, intact, plump, perfectly shaped, smelling like bitter medicine and hope. Got it. My hands were shaking from excitement. Then something grunted behind the bushes. A wild boar the size of a small car exploded out of the undergrowth. Bristles standing straight up, tusks gleaming, charging directly at my chest. I ran, obviously, clutching that ginseng like my life depended on it. Which, financially speaking, it did. The boar was right behind me, hooves crunching leaves. Hot, wet breath on the back of my neck. Gaining, getting closer. 20 steps in, my right foot caught a tree root, and I went down face first. Ate dirt. Rolled over just in time to see those tusks filling my entire field of vision. One thought, I'm so screwed. SHHK? Thud. The tusks punched straight through me. Blood everywhere. I heard my own bones break. Felt things inside me shift to places they absolutely should not be. But right before everything went black, I saw an arrow, a perfect shot, bury itself in the boar's right eye socket and come out the other side. Dark red feathers on the shaft trembled twice. The boar screamed, crashed to the ground, kicked its legs twice, and went still. Then office lights. Fluorescent. Beautiful, ugly, wonderful fluorescent office lights. I was back in my chair, gasping, shaking, phantom pain still ripping through my torso. It took a long time to stop trembling. I looked down at my hands. The ginseng root was sitting right there in my palm. A few broken root hairs, but the body was perfect. My fingers were still covered in wet dirt. It actually came back with me. I sat there for 2 solid minutes, frozen. Then a grin spread across my face that I couldn't have stopped if I tried. For the first time in months, the debt felt like something that might actually end. I set the ginseng on the desk, grabbed my water cup, chugged it, checked the time, 4:30 a.m., and looked out the window. Somewhere in the distance, a cat yowled. I packed the ginseng and the tooth necklace into my briefcase, lit a cigarette, and started thinking. Trip 1. Lost a pen and paper, brought back a necklace made of monster teeth. Trip 2. Lost a pen, brought back wild ginseng worth serious cash. Pattern. The destination is random. Things go both ways. And when I die over there, I pop back here. Not the worst deal, honestly. Next time, though. Next time I'm going prepared. No more dying like an idiot. I grabbed my briefcase and walked out of the office, doing mental math on what this ginseng might sell for. Meanwhile, back in the forest, someone stood near the dead giant boar, turning a strange little clicking pin over and over in their hands, staring at the spot where I'd vanished, looking very confused. I got back to my place before sunrise. And by place, I mean a tiny room carved out of a bigger room in one of those urban village apartments where you can hear your neighbor's thoughts through the walls. I stuffed the tooth necklace and the ginseng into my bedside drawer. Closed it. Opened it. Closed it. Opened it again. Then I realized I was doing the exact same psycho routine I did at the office. Cool. Totally normal behavior. Nothing to worry about. Couldn't sleep. My brain was playing highlight reels of bullheaded axe murderers and angry boars on repeat. So I grabbed my phone and started Googling ginseng prices instead. Turns out, a 50-year-old wild ginseng in good shape goes for around 500,000 yuan. My eyeballs nearly fell out of my head. I slowly turned and stared at the drawer like it owed me money, which, technically, it was about to pay back. Morning came. I texted my boss asking for 2 days off. Project was done. I'd been pulling all-nighters for a week. He replied with one word. Fine. Man of many words, my boss. Literally 2 seconds later, my phone rang. Debt collector. Voice flatter than a robot reading a parking ticket. Chengdong. 20,000 yuan. Deadline, 5 p.m. today. We know your landlord wants you out. 3 months behind on rent. Money doesn't show up. We send your debt records to him. He throws your stuff on the street. No deposit back. Pay up or start shopping for a nice bridge to sleep under. Click. Lovely chat. Really warmed my heart. By 9:30, I was standing in an old traditional medicine shop on the south side of town. The place smelled like 1,000 herbs had a meeting. Deer antler, lingzhi mushrooms, cordyceps, the whole greatest hits collection lined up behind glass. The owner, a middle-aged guy with the calm energy of someone who's seen 10,000 ginseng roots, held mine under a lamp for a solid 5 minutes. I stood there trying to look casual while my soul was screaming. 50-some years old. Not quite 60. 3 broken root hairs. Without those, could have hit 700,000. I'll give you 520,000. I kept my poker face bolted on tight. Root body's perfect. Only 3 broken hairs. 580,000. He squinted at it again. 540,000. 550,000. Deal or no deal? He looked at me like I was both annoying and impressive at the same time. Kid, you drive a hard bargain. Send me your bank account. I'll transfer it right now. Actually, cash would be great. Don't have that much on hand. Give me half an hour. I'll wait. 30 minutes later, the money counting machine was going brrrr, and the owner slid 6 fat stacks of cash across the counter. I loaded it all into a rolling suitcase, because apparently that's my life now, walking around with a suitcase full of cash like a low-budget crime movie, and headed for the door. Outside, there was a pancake stand with a few people in line. A short guy glanced my way. Just one look. But something about it made every hair on the back of my neck stand up. I'd seen this dude somewhere before. He'd been watching. Probably saw the cash through the window. I pulled out my phone, cool as a cucumber, and fake called a contact. Hey, Officer Wong. I'm at the medicine shop, the one across from the pancake stand. Come pick up your stuff. Hurry. The guy on the other end paused for a second, then caught on immediately. Bless him. I leaned against the door frame, scrolling my phone like I didn't have a care in the world. 2 cars rolled up a few minutes later. One parked at the intersection. The other cruised toward the pancake stand. For plainclothes officers inside, smooth as butter. One of them. Hey, I skipped breakfast. Let me grab a pancake. You go get the stuff from the shop. Same. I'll come with you. 2 guys strolled up to the pancake stand, chatting and laughing, and the second they got close to the short dude, Beam tackled him face first into the pavement. The other 2 sprinted over. The car at the intersection peeled up. The short guy thrashed like a fish on a dock. Don't move. Police. Wong Motsi. You're under arrest. After they stuffed him in the car, one of the plainclothes officers walked up to me. You called it in, right? Sharp kid. Give us your details. We'll send you the reward money. Wait, there's actually a reward? I just saw the wanted notice on my phone this morning while I was scrolling. Lucky day, huh? Hey, any chance you guys can give me a ride? Sure. Where to? The bank. First stop. Paid off the 200,000 yuan emergency debt. Second stop. Knocked down a chunk of the credit card balance. Third stop. Caught up on rent and utilities. Back at my apartment, I sat on the edge of my bed and let it all sink in. Wild ginseng money, plus a wanted criminal bounty in the same morning? My luck had done a complete U-turn. The universe was finally cutting me some slack. Or maybe it just felt bad about the whole, getting killed twice in another dimension, thing. I decided to stop treating the crossover trips like supernatural horror and start treating them like what they actually were, dungeon runs. Go in, grab loot, die, respawn back home with the goods. Simple, elegant, absolutely terrifying, but financially productive. I pulled out a notebook and started listing questions. 1. Does the crossing only work in my office or anywhere? 2. Is there a size or weight limit on what I can carry? 3. Can I come back without dying? Because dying really hurts, and I prefer to stop. 4. How long can I stay over there each trip? Then I packed my gear. Folding knife, lighter, rope, heavy-duty flashlight. I wrapped most of the flashlight head in black electrical tape so it wouldn't blast light like a spotlight and get me killed again. Added 4 energy bars, 2 bottles of water, Band-Aids. Whole bag weighed maybe 5 or 6 pounds. Manageable. After days of barely sleeping, I crashed hard. Best nap of my life. Woke up at 11:30 p.m. to the sound of my neighbor blasting comedy videos through the wall. Paper-thin walls. Love this place. I laced up my sneakers, strapped the backpack across my chest, left my phone on the desk. Watched the clock. 23:55. 23:56. Deep breaths. 23:59. That familiar nervous feeling crawled up my spine. No way to predict where I'd land. Could be a meadow. Could be a volcano. Could be another monster's living room. Eyes closed. Let's go. Midnight. Consciousness. Deleted. I came to gagging on sulfur. The air was dry and hot, like sticking my face inside a kiln that just finished cooking hell. Sulfur mixed with burned meat. My stomach wanted to file a formal complaint. I was in some kind of dark cave. Faint red glow in the distance. and the ground around my feet, covered in bones. Big bones, small bones, some still with bits of tendon attached, edges jagged and splintered. The biggest ones were thicker than my forearm. They crumbled when I touched them. Great. Love the vibe. Very cozy. I flicked open my knife and crept along the cave wall, which was scorched black and still warm to the touch. Along the way, broken swords, crushed helmets rusted beyond recognition, everything caked in dried black blood. This was clearly a place where brave warriors came to die. I turned a corner, and the cave opened up into a cathedral-sized cavern. The ceiling disappeared into darkness. A dim red glow filtered down from somewhere above. And there, in the center, was a mountain. A literal mountain, made entirely of gold coins, golden goblets, gemstones, and wooden chests overflowing with treasure. Sleeping on top of this pile, like the world's most terrifying cat on the world's most expensive bed, was a dragon. A black dragon, 15 meters long, scales so dark they swallowed light, with cracks between them glowing dull red like lava veins. Bone spikes running from its neck all the way down to the tail, wings folded tight against its body. Every time it exhaled, little wisps of black smoke curled out of its nostrils, and the gold coins around its head vibrated. My brain delivered a calm, measured assessment. You are going to die here. I started backing up. He'll hit something metal. The clink of iron on rock echoed through the cavern like a gunshot in a library. The dragon's eyelid twitched. I froze. Every muscle locked. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I became a statue. A very sweaty, terrified statue. A few seconds passed. The dragon kept snoring. Thank you. Thank you, dragon. Keep sleeping. Beautiful sleep. Very restful. Good dragon. While creeping backward, I spotted something next to the gold pile. An egg. Gray-black, about the size of a soccer ball, covered in cracks, pulsing with faint purple light in rhythm with the dragon's breathing. A dragon egg. My brain immediately started calculating what that thing would sell for. Then my survival instincts grabbed my brain by the collar and slapped it across the face. You're here to make money, not to commit suicide by angry dragon mom. Fair point. Moving on. A few steps further back, my foot landed on something soft, a small cloth pouch, palm-sized, tied shut, surprisingly heavy. I shoved it inside my jacket in about 0.3 seconds. Right on cue, the dragon let out a rumble from deep in its throat. The entire cave shook. Pebbles rained from the ceiling. I touched the wall and yanked my hand back, scalding hot. The dragon's tail swept lazily to one side, sending a cascade of gold coins tumbling. One rolled all the way to my feet. I snatched it, stuffed it in my pocket, and ran. Made it about 30 meters before my flashlight slipped out of the backpack and hit the ground. The electrical tape tore, and a beam of white light exploded across the dark cave like a lighthouse beacon. Of course, perfect timing. I bent down to grab it, and the light swept across the wall, where I saw something incredible. Ancient murals burned into the stone by dragon fire. On one side, tiny human figures knelt before a massive winged dragon, offering round orbs. On the other side, the same vertical slit eye symbol appeared over and over. I memorized the pattern, grabbed the flashlight, and booked it toward the exit. Bones and metal scraps jabbed my feet through my shoes the whole way. Sulfur burned my throat. I reached the cave mouth and looked out. Cliff. Straight down. 1,000 feet of nothing, ending in a river of boiling lava. Fantastic. Just fantastic. About 3 meters up on the cliff face, I spotted a narrow rock ledge. If I could get there, I could buy some time. I tied my rope around a big rock, knotted it around my waist, and started to climb. Then, from deep inside the cave, 2 glowing red slits appeared in the darkness. Vertical pupils. The dragon was awake. I clamped the flashlight between my teeth and rappelled down the rope as fast as I could. Hot air blasted up from below, so intense my arm hair started curling. Then the cave mouth erupted. A jet of fire, blue at the center, orange at the edges, roared out of the opening. The heat wave hadn't even reached me yet when my nylon rope just melted, snapped clean. I was falling, wind screaming past my ears, lava getting bigger and bigger below me. I screamed the only appropriate thing. You overgrown lizard. Mark my words. I'm coming back and I will end you. Hero dies again. Third death. New record. I slammed back into consciousness in my apartment, gasping, drenched in sweat, heart trying to punch through my ribcage. But I was grinning, because clutched in my shaking hand was that little cloth pouch, heavy and mysterious. What's inside? Guess I'd have to open it and find out. I snapped awake like someone jabbed me with a cattle prod. My back was drenched. My fingers had tiny black ash flakes wedged between them, and every nerve in my body still remembered what it feels like to be slow roasted by lava. Phone said 045. I sat there for a minute having a small existential crisis. Trip 1. Axed by a bull monster. Trip 2. Skewered by a boar. Trip 3. Deep fried by a dragon and dropped into a lava river like a chicken nugget into a fryer. The Afterlife Travel Agency really needs to update its safety brochure. Deep breath. Focus. Check the loot. Cloth pouch. Still here. Gold coin from the dragon's floor. Still in my pocket. Folding knife. Present and accounted for. Everything I was holding when I died came back with me. Everything I dropped, flashlight, rope, stayed behind. Rule confirmed. If it's on your body when you croak, it crosses over. If it hits the ground first, bye-bye. I grabbed my notebook and wrote it all down. Then I opened the little cloth pouch to see what I'd risked getting incinerated for. The bag was the size of my palm on the outside. On the inside, it was roughly the size of a walk-in closet. A spatial storage bag, like a magic pocket dimension shaped like a fanny pack. In a world with giant dragons and fire-breathing lizards, this actually tracked. Made perfect sense. Sure, why not? My hands were shaking as I dumped everything onto my bed. Out came a pile of gold coins, silver coins, and copper coins. Several small glass vials filled with glowing liquids, red, blue, white, green. Each bottle giving off a faint shimmer like tiny lava lamps. 8 crystals of different sizes and colors, red, blue, yellow, purple. The smallest about the size of a thumbnail, the biggest like a golf ball, all of them clear and gem-like. And finally, one ancient-looking metal token covered in weird symbols and patterns I couldn't read. I stared at this pile of fantasy RPG loot sitting on my bedsheets in a crappy urban village apartment and thought, my life is so weird now. I held up the gold coin from the dragon's lair under my ceiling light and turned it slowly. The writing on it looked like wedge-shaped script. Couldn't read a word, but it was clearly organized, systematic. A real language from a real civilization. If I could convert even half this stuff to cash, my debt problems were over. It was 1:30 a.m. I lay down and closed my eyes, wondering if I'd cross over again. Woke up at noon. No crossing. Apparently, it only happens at midnight, and only once per night. Good to know. I picked out the smallest, most boring-looking silver coin, the one least likely to raise questions, and headed to the antique district on the west side of town. I'd been there before with a client. Found the shop with the oldest, most beat-up storefront, figuring the owner would be the real deal. Pushed open the door. A little bell jingled. The owner was an old man in reading glasses, polishing a bronze incense burner. He glanced up at me, said nothing, and went back to polishing. Cool customer. I slid the silver coin across the counter. He finally put down the burner, picked up the coin, flipped it, examined the edges with a magnifying glass, weighed it on a digital scale. Huh, that's odd. He pushed his glasses down his nose and peered at me over the frames. The universal old person move 4. I'm about to ask you something suspicious. Silver purity's above 95%. But the minting technique. I've been doing this 40 years, and I've never seen anything like it. The edge teeth are mold-pressed, but the precision doesn't match any known historical period. Where'd you get this, kid? My grandpa left it to me, I said, face completely straight. He obviously didn't believe me, but he also didn't push it. Offered 800 yuan. I didn't sell. Walked out. Heart hammering. Because here's the math my brain was doing at full speed. The silver coins are real silver. I had 30 or 40 of them in the magic bag. At 800 each, that's around 30,000 yuan just from the silver. The gold coins? 5 figures minimum. Per coin. I was rich. I was actually, genuinely, potentially rich. I grabbed lunch at a small restaurant. The TV was showing some news about an ancient civilization site discovered in South America, archaeologists doing their thing. I barely noticed. My entire brain was occupied with one thought. Next trip. Back at my apartment that evening, I started planning. First decision, I'd go back to my hometown after tonight's crossing. Couldn't exactly explain why a broke, Debt-crushed office workers suddenly had pockets full of mysterious gold coins. Second, I strapped on the beast tooth necklace from Trip 1. Tiger teeth scare animals. Maybe monster teeth work the same way. If I'd been wearing it during the boar incident, maybe Porky would have thought twice. Third, and most important, I reviewed my 3 spectacular deaths. Trip 1, battlefield, frozen in panic like a deer in headlights. Trip 2, forest, got greedy digging up ginseng and forgot to watch my surroundings. Trip 3, dragon cave, voluntarily walked into a sleeping apex predator's bedroom. Pattern? 2 words, completely passive. Every single time, danger found me and I just ran. 0 initiative. 0 control. I needed to flip that. I also scribbled down a new theory. Maybe my mental state when falling asleep affects where I land? First 2 times I was exhausted, passed out cold, and dropped straight into nightmare zones. Third time I was rested and prepared, and I landed safely. Then ruined it by poking a dragon. If I prepared even better tonight, maybe I'd land somewhere even more manageable? Filed that theory under, test later, gear upgrade time. I added pepper spray for ranged defense, an electric scooter helmet for head protection, work gloves to prevent cuts and burns, and a sealed plastic bag containing a help note written in both Chinese and English, just in case I met locals who could read. At 11:30 p.m., I stashed the storage bag in a safe spot. No way I was bringing it along. Didn't survive dragon fire just to lose everything because I tripped over a rock. Full loadout, backpack on chest, pepper spray in pocket, scooter helmet on head. I looked in the mirror. I look like a delivery driver, I muttered. Whatever. Nobody in Fantasyland knows what DoorDash is. 11:59. Eyes closed. Midnight. Lights out. I opened my eyes to the worst smell yet, and that's saying something, because I've now smelled sulfur-roasted corpse and bull monster armpit. This was mildew, rust, and human waste, all mixed together into an aroma that could peel paint off walls. I dry-heaved immediately. I was crouching on muddy ground inside some kind of cage. Overhead, a tiny iron-barred window the size of my hand let in moonlight. 2 moons, actually, 1 red, 1 white, hanging in an alien sky. The cage was made of wooden stakes as thick as my thigh, sharpened at the top, driven deep into the earth. The gaps were so narrow I couldn't fit an arm through, let alone my whole body. The door was a solid plank of wood with a massive iron padlock. And I wasn't alone. 7 or 8 other people sat chained inside. Ragged clothes, iron shackles on their ankles, chains bolted to stone posts. Nobody talking. The air tasted like despair and unwashed feet. I checked myself. No chains. I'd materialized inside the cage, but the slavers hadn't noticed me yet. Small mercy. Through the bars I could see a dirt path, a fire pit crackling at the end, shadows moving around. Near the central bonfire, 4 or 5 guys in leather armor with swords and knives strapped to their hips were drinking and eating, laughing like frat boys at a barbecue. Behind them, several iron cage wagons. The horses pulling them had horns growing out of their foreheads. Unicorn horses. Sure. Added to the list. Slavers. Human traffickers. The lowest possible scum in any universe, apparently including fantasy ones. I scanned the cage, and my eyes stopped on a figure in the corner. Everyone else was curled up small, trying to be invisible, but this one sat with her back straight, not fully upright, but deliberately not broken, like she was holding on to something on purpose. Firelight flickered through the bars and caught her profile. Features sharper and more refined than any human face I'd seen. Jawline like it was cut from marble. And the ears, pointed ears poking out from messy short hair, tips curving upward, glowing faintly pink in the light. Elf. That word just appeared in my brain like a pop-up notification. This world had bullmen, humans, elves, at least 3 species. And clearly they weren't all getting along. The elf woman didn't have the dead inside look the other prisoners wore. Her eyes were constantly scanning, counting the guards, timing their patrol routes, checking the fence for weak spots. Her finger traced silent patterns in the dirt. She'd been planning an escape. For a while, from the looks of it. I crept over and whispered, "Hello." Nothing. Tried English. Nothing. I knocked on the wooden post between us. 3 long taps, 2 short. Universal. I come in peace, energy. She turned and looked at me full on. If her profile was striking, her face was a straight-up knockout. But I had 0 time for that. Her eyes were calm and hard, the kind of look that said, I will get out of here or die trying. She pointed at her ear, then outside, then put a finger to her lips. Shoe guards. Boots crunched past the bars. Sword scabbard clinked against leather armor. We waited. When the footsteps faded, she scooted closer, examining my bizarre outfit. The helmet, the zipper on my jacket, the backpack. Her gaze lingered on the zipper like it was alien technology, which, to her, it literally was. She spoke a string of words in a language that sounded like someone singing while gargling crystals. Beautiful and completely incomprehensible. I pulled out my bilingual help note and handed it over. She read it, sniffed the plastic bag it came in, looked even more confused, and handed it back. Then she pointed at herself and said one word. Selen. I blinked. Name. Right. I pointed at myself. Chung Dong. Chung Dong. She repeated it. Came out a little wonky, but close enough. Then she got straight to business. No small talk. No, where are you from? Or, what's with the helmet? Pure tactical efficiency. I liked her immediately. Hand signals. She pointed at both of us, then outside. We escaped together. She drew a map in the dirt, circle for the camp, lines for the fences, X marks for guard positions, for near the fire, for patrolling outside. 8 to 10 total. Armed but sloppy. She circled a spot to the southwest. The fence repairs there were loose. Our exit point. I laid out my gear. She nodded at the rope, sniffed the energy bars suspiciously, stared blankly at the band-aids, flashlight, and pepper spray. Then I popped the blade on my folding knife, and her eyes lit up like Christmas morning. But then she saw the token. The metal badge I'd grabbed from the dragon cave, covered in mysterious engravings. Her whole demeanor changed. Not scared. Not happy. Something complicated. She reached toward it, stopped, looked at me for permission. I nodded. She took it, ran her fingers over the symbols, muttered something under her breath, eyebrows knotted tight. When she handed it back, she was different. Before, I was a fellow prisoner with useful gadgets. Now I was something else. She carried herself with more caution around me. More respect, maybe. She asked through gestures where I got it. I shrugged and shook my head because how exactly do you mime? I stole it from a sleeping dragon's treasure hoard and then got burned alive and fell into lava? She didn't push it, but the way she looked at me had permanently shifted. I gave a tiny test spray of the pepper spray on the ground. The mist hit her nose and she recoiled hard, eyes watering, then immediately understood what it was for. A small, dangerous smile appeared on her face. Selen laid out the plan. Guard shift change at midnight. The slavers liked their booze. During the handoff, sentries would split up to water the horses. That gave us a few minutes window. She had a hidden steel sliver to pick the lock. My job. Backup, ropes for climbing the fence, pepper spray for emergencies, knife as last resort. Once over the wall, we'd sprint for the tree line and disappear. I used hand signals to ask the obvious question. What if they catch us? Selen pointed at the pepper spray, then at her own fist. Made a punching motion. Translation, then we fight. Fair enough. We settled in and waited, silent, ready. Then heavy footsteps came stomping straight toward our cage. My eyes flew open. Back in the chair. Back in the apartment. Back in the land of electricity and indoor plumbing. 2:38 a.m. My neck was still burning where something stung me. I reached back and felt. Nothing. Skin perfectly fine. But between my fingers? Tiny gray-green flakes that smelled like rotting leaves. I laughed. Not a happy laugh. More of a, the universe keeps finding new ways to murder me, laugh. Death number 4, ladies and gentlemen. Killed by a bug. Not a dragon. Not a bull monster. Not a giant boar. A bug. Probably the size of a quarter. Just walked up to my neck and said, good night forever. My complete death resumes so far. Axed, gored, incinerated, and now stung. If there's a frequent dying punch card, I should be getting a free smoothie by now. I set the pepper spray on the desk. The nozzle still smelled like chili. That part actually worked great. Sprayed a drunk slaver right in the face, screamed like someone shoved a jalapeno up his nose, knocked over a barrel, set half the camp on fire. Beautiful chaos. 5 stars, would spray again. I opened my notebook and added notes under, Trip 4. This world has humans, elves, and a slave trade. Landed inside a slaver's cage. Met an elf named Selen who recognized the Dragon Cave token, showed respect/fear, clearly knows something about it. She picked the lock. We escaped together. She split off into the deep mountains to draw the pursuers away from me. Current status, unknown. I paused after writing, Selin, then added, drew away all the chasers. Might be dead. The slavers had chased her instead of me. Made sense from their perspective. An elf slave was worth way more than some weirdo in a scooter helmet with no chains on. But still, she'd pushed me toward the downhill path and pointed herself toward the deep mountains. Gave me the folding knife back. Well, tried to. I pushed it back to her. She'd need it more than me. I can respawn. She can't. Right before she disappeared into the trees, she'd said something soft in her language, moonlight catching her face through the leaves. No idea what it meant. Note to self, buy a new folding knife before next trip. I picked up my phone and opened the chat with Li Hao, the backstabbing, money-stealing, friendship-destroying cockroach who put me in debt. Typed a message. Deleted it. Typed another one. Deleted that too. Locked the phone and slapped it face down on the desk. Who would I even tell about this? Hey buddy, just FYI, I've been dying in another dimension every night and bringing back fantasy treasure. Also, there's a hot elf who might be dead because of me. How's your weekend? Yeah. That conversation would end with a psych ward referral. I picked wood splinters off my scooter helmet, scraped off the slaver camp fence during the escape, and placed them on the desk next to the black ash from the dragon cave. My little collection of interdimensional souvenirs. Other people bring back fridge magnets from vacation. I bring back evidence of near-death experiences. For about 30 seconds, I worried whether this alien world debris might carry some unknown virus. Then I thought about it. I'd been crossing over for 4 nights, been murdered in 4 creative ways, and my body kept regenerating perfectly. If interdimensional plague was going to get me, it probably would have happened already. Showered. Passed out. Woke up the next morning feeling completely fine. No pain, no sting mark, no nothing. Like dying is just a really aggressive reset button. Put on a clean shirt. Packed everything. Notebook, all the stuff from the other world, both piles of mystery dust, into the spatial storage bag. Headed to work. 8:30 a.m. Long line at the punch clock. When it was my turn, I didn't swipe my card. Walked straight past the machine and into my boss's office. Boss. I quit. He was mid-sip on his soy milk, looking at his computer. Glanced up at me. No surprise. No, please stay. Just a nod. Fine. Paycheck at the end of the month. No handover needed. I'll give your stuff to Little Lee. Thanks. I walked out. Total time in the office, 28 seconds. Might be a company record. Grabbed my few things from my desk, tossed everything I didn't need, went back to the apartment, returned the keys to the landlord, settled up on utilities, and dragged my suitcase straight to the bullet train station. Bought the next ticket home. The waiting hall was packed with people going places. I leaned against a pillar, watching trains slide past the windows, and felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Calm. The debt had a solution now. The crushing, suffocating, sleep-stealing mountain of 5.8 million yuan finally had a crack in it. For the first time in months, my chest didn't feel like it was being sat on by an elephant. As the train left the city and skyscrapers melted into wheat fields, my mind drifted to the thing I usually tried not to think about. 3 years ago, my parents' factory caught fire. They didn't make it out. The official report said old wiring. But the factory was new. Brand new building with brand new electrical. How does brand new wiring just spontaneously combust? I spent 3 months investigating. Talked to everyone I could find. Hit nothing but dead ends. Eventually, the company and the insurance paid out a settlement, and I had to let it go. But I never really let it go. That splinter stayed buried deep. 3 hours on the bullet train, then an hour on a bumpy village bus, and finally, the crooked old locust tree at the village entrance. The place was almost empty. Everyone young had left for the cities years ago. Just old folks and little kids now. Blazing sun, deserted dirt road, chickens scratching in the dust, a dog too lazy to even bark at me. My family's old house sat at the east end of the village. Clay walls, black tile roof. Half the courtyard wall had collapsed. The yard was a jungle of foxtail grass growing up to my waist. The copper lock on the door was rusted solid. I fought it with the key for a solid minute before it finally clicked open. Pushed the door and got hit with a wall of dust and mildew. The old 8 Immortals table in the main room was buried under a thick layer of gray. On the wall above it hung my parents' black and white portrait, both of them smiling exactly the way I remembered. My eyes burned. I dropped my backpack, hauled up a bucket of water from the well, and carefully, slowly, cleaned their photo first. Then the table. Then the chairs. Sunlight came through the window in dusty columns, and the house was so quiet I could hear myself breathe. After the debt happened, every friend and relative vanished. I'd call someone, and before I could even say hello, I don't have money. Click. 5-year girlfriend? Gone. One text. Zero discussion. By the end, there was nobody left. Not a single person to talk to. Funny thing is, right now, sitting in this empty house in this empty village, I didn't feel panicked anymore. Maybe it was the storage bag full of gold in my pocket. Maybe it was knowing that every night at midnight, a door opens to a world where I can change everything. Maybe it was just being home. I spent the whole afternoon cleaning. Got the main room and my old bedroom back into shape. At sunset, I walked to the village convenience store, bought 2 packs of instant noodles and a bottle of water, and ate dinner sitting on the front step, watching the sky turn orange. One by one, the village lights went out. Mine was the last one still on. I closed the door, found some old glass jars in the kitchen, and carefully separated my collection. Black ash from the dragon cave in one jar, with splinters. From the slave camp in another, gray-green bug dust in a third. Lined them up on the corner of my childhood desk like the world's most disturbing science project. Then I sat down in the old wooden chair, opened my notebook, and started my shopping list for trip number 5. High-top hiking boots, because running for my life. An office shoes was getting old. Waterproof jacket, because I still didn't know if the next landing zone would be a swamp, a glacier, or the inside of a whale. I kept writing. The list grew. Each item was a lesson paid for in blood and pain and creative methods of dying. When I finally put down the pen, I looked up at the window. Stars out here were insane, nothing like the city. The whole sky was white with them. And I remembered something my parents used to say. Back when the factory was doing well, back when life made sense, back when the worst thing that could happen to me was a bad grade on a math test. I stared at the stars for a long time, thinking about bull-headed monsters, dragons, elves, magic bags, and a debt that was finally, slowly, shrinking. Then I started getting ready for trip number 5. While I was sitting there waiting for midnight, a memory floated up out of nowhere. Something my parents said once: if one day we're both gone, don't be sad. Back then, I thought it was just normal parent stuff. But now, sitting alone in their empty house, staring at their photo on the wall, that sentence felt wrong. Like they knew something was coming. New factory. Old wiring, sure. I shoved that thought into the back drawer of my brain. One crisis at a time. 11:55 p.m. Clock ticking. Tonight's experiment. What happens if I keep my eyes open at midnight? 11:59. Heart doing its usual pre-launch drum solo. 12 o'clock. Nothing. 12:01. Still sitting on my bed. Still in my old house. Still very much in this dimension. 3 possible explanations. Eyes must be closed, location matters, or there's a cool-down timer between trips. My money was on option 1. I wrote it down, lay back, closed my eyes, and slept straight through to morning like a baby. No crossing. So midnight was the only window. Miss it, and you wait 24 hours. Noted. Next morning, I ate a compressed biscuit in the yard, planned my shopping list, caught the village bus into town, and went absolutely feral in an outdoor gear store. Hiking boots, tactical pants, waterproof jacket, sleeping bag, inflatable pad, insulated water bottle, mess kit, energy bars, first aid kit, compass, heavy-duty flashlight. Then hit a hardware store, Swiss Army knife, folding military shovel, and a pack of zip ties. By evening, I was back at the old house, laying everything out on the table like a kid sorting Halloween candy. Knife on the belt, shovel strapped to the backpack, lighter in the pocket, flashlight clipped to the shoulder strap, small items in pockets, valuables in the magic storage bag, kept against my body at all times. 11:55 p.m. Alarm clock on the nightstand. Full gear on. Sitting on the edge of my bed looking like I was about to invade a small country. Tonight's test. Eyes closed, no sleeping required. Just closed at midnight. Let's see what happens. 11:59. Heart racing. Same as always. 12 o'clock. Click. Consciousness. Gone. Rule confirmed. Eyes closed at midnight equals instant transport. Location doesn't matter. No cooldown. The trigger is simple. Be awake. Close your eyes. Midnight hits. You're gone. Keep your eyes open and nothing happens. Finally, one thing about this insane situation I could actually control. I opened my eyes to the smell of charcoal and rust. I was crouching behind a stack of iron ingots inside some kind of forge. Furnaces roaring, hammers pounding, air hot enough to bake bread just by holding it up. And the workers? Short, very short, like chest-height on me short. Huge beards, leather aprons, arms thicker than my legs. Dwarves. Actual, honest to God, straight out of a fantasy novel dwarves. My waterproof jacket stuck out like a neon sign in a coal mine. Before I could even think about what to do, one of the dwarf apprentices turned around, spotted me, and froze. The iron bar he was holding slipped out of his tongs and splashed into a quenching bucket. Steam everywhere. Then he screamed. Every hammer in the forge stopped. Every head turned. 30 pairs of beady dwarf eyes locked onto me. The tall, weirdly dressed human crouching in their extremely private weapons forge. Someone yelled something. I didn't understand the words, but I understood the energy. It was spy energy. Very aggressive energy. Wait, I'm not. 2 apprentices grabbed my arms. I tried to pull free. I did not pull free. These guys came up to my chest and had arms like tree trunks. It was like being held by 2 very angry fire hydrants. I went absolutely nowhere. My backpack got yanked off. My Swiss Army knife got confiscated. The pepper spray rolled away between some iron ingots. Gone forever. One apprentice flipped open the Swiss Army knife, held it up to the forge light, and stared at it with total confusion. He handed it to the foreman. The foreman tested the blade edge. His pupils shrank to pinpoints. He looked at me, then at the knife, then back at me. Then they threw me in a dungeon. Stone room. Iron bars. Straw on the floor. Bucket in the corner. Standard fantasy prison starter kit. I sat on the straw rubbing my shoulders and said out loud to absolutely no one. Trip 4, slave cage. Trip 5, dwarf jail cell. Do I have a personal beef with every prison in this dimension? Is there a warrant out for me across the multiverse? 2 dwarf guards stood outside arguing about whether I was a spy. I leaned against the stone wall and sighed. At least they hadn't chopped my head off. Progress. 2 hours crawled by. My stomach growled loud enough to echo off the walls. Then footsteps. Multiple sets. Metal clinking. The iron door swung open and an old dwarf stood there, my Swiss Army knife in his hand. He popped out the blade, tested the edge, studied the markings on the steel. Then he looked at me and said one word. No idea what it meant. Something like, master? I stared blankly. He tried a different language. Shorter, throatier sounds. Still nothing. I just stood there like a golden retriever hearing a doorbell for the first time. He clicked his tongue impatiently, waved at the guards, and they marched me out of the cell. We walked through mining tunnels with glowing crystal or embedded in the walls, iron rails on the ground, and lamps that burned without fire. I was gawking like a tourist. These little guys had technology. Rail systems. Luminescent lighting. Impressive stuff. The tunnel opened into a massive hall with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. The walls were covered in carved forge reliefs. Giant glowing crystals lit the whole space. In the center sat a long stone table, and behind it, 7 or 8 elderly dwarfs. The one in the middle had a beard that reached his knees, braided with silver rings. Didn't need a name tag to know this was the boss. The old craftsman placed my Swiss Army knife on the table and slid it toward the elders. They passed it around. First expression, curiosity. Second expression, shock. Then they all started arguing at once. I stood there while 8 ancient dwarves had a heated debate about my pocket knife. About 15 minutes in, the big-beard dwarf in the center raised his hand. Instant silence. He stood up, walked to a stone alcove, and pulled out a metal cylinder covered in glowing runes. He opened it, unrolled a leather scroll across the table, placed his palm in the center, closed his eyes, and started chanting. The symbols on the scroll lit up, brighter and brighter, then exploded into white light that shot straight at me, coiled around my arm like a luminous snake, and drilled into my temple. My brain turned into a blender. Thousands of symbols, sounds, grammar rules, all pouring in at once, burning themselves directly into my neurons like someone was hot-wiring a language into my skull. I blacked out, hit my shoulder on a stone chair on the way down. When I came to, a few seconds or minutes later, I could understand them. Using an ancient scroll on an outsider breaks protocol. What if he's a human spy? We basically just gifted him our entire ancient language. But did you see that knife? That forging technique isn't human. The engravings on the blade. I've been alive 320 years, and I've never seen markings like that. Not chiseled. Not branded. It's like they were carved with light. Exactly why it's dangerous. Whatever faction can produce that kind of work. Why would they send him here? I pushed myself up off the floor. Every elder went quiet and stared. The dwarf king raised his hand for silence, walked over to me, and spoke. You can understand us now. I am the king of the dwarves. My throat was dry as sandpaper. I swallowed and answered. I can understand. Most of it. First time speaking dwarvish. My pronunciation was rough. But the king understood me, and he nodded at the elders. Confirmation the scroll had worked. He pointed at the Swiss Army knife on the table. Who forged this blade? Don't lie. I'll know. I thought about it for exactly 1 second. Decided on the truth. Worst case, I die and wake up at home. It was made in my world. Where I come from, this kind of knife is mass-produced. Factories make them on assembly lines. Thousands at a time. The hall went dead silent for 5 seconds. Then the elders erupted. Your world? You're claiming to be from another dimension? Impossible. The ancient scrolls have references to visitors from other worlds. Those are legends. The scroll fragments don't even have consistent dates. Then how do you explain his clothes? I examined the fabric under a magnifying lens. There's no weave. No warp, no weft. It's like they pressed raw material directly into a membrane. That's not textile technology. The king didn't join the argument. He studied me for a long moment, then said one sentence that shut every elder up instantly. Human, your clothes, your knife, and the way you were speaking before the scroll, none of it belongs to any known faction in Eldoris. Human kingdoms can't make this. Elves can't make this. Orcs definitely can't make this. He paused, picked up the Swiss Army knife, turned it over one more time. I'm inclined to believe you're a visitor from another world. However, the Grand Elder suspects you're a spy. You may move freely, but do not leave the king's hall. I exhaled so hard I probably deflated slightly. Not getting executed today. Victory. The old master craftsman pointed at the knife with barely contained excitement. Can we study this? We'll trade you something for it. I glanced at the king, then back at the craftsman, and said in my janky dwarvish, keep it. It's a gift. No trade needed. Just, can I get my backpack back? The old craftsman cradled that Swiss Army knife like I'd just handed him the Holy Grail. He practically skipped out of the hall. A 300-year-old dwarf. Skipping. The king ordered a guard. Bring the humans back. I got my backpack, pulled out the folding military shovel, and figured, why not go all in on the diplomacy? This is also a gift. It's a multifunction entrenching tool. Let me show you how it works. I demonstrated shovel mode, pick mode, saw edge, bottle opener. The elders watched like kids at a magic show. One of them actually said, incredible, out loud, which I'm choosing to believe is dwarvish for, this guy rocks. The king took the shovel happily and said, you're an interesting human from another world. You must have a name. I told him. Chung Dong. He nodded, about to respond. 3 sharp horn blasts echoed through the stone halls. The floor vibrated under my feet. The hall doors exploded open and a dwarf guard stumbled in, left shoulder armor shattered, blood dripping down his arm. Mountain beasts. At least a dozen. They broke through the east mine tunnel. The iron gate is gone. The dwarf king, whose name, I learned, was Iron Dome. Yes, seriously, Iron Dome. The most dwarf name in the history of dwarf names. Shot to his feet, so fast his stone chair screeched across the floor. What kind? Stone-armored lizards. Plus 2 lava scorpions. The east checkpoint is overrun. Iron Dome flicked a command token at the guard like a poker chip and barked. 10th Heavy Guard, deploy. Now, the guard caught it midair and sprinted out. Iron Dome grabbed a warhammer from beside his throne, a warhammer that was bigger than me, and marched out of the hall. The elders scrambled to follow. I looked around, thought about it for half a second, and ran after them. Why? Excellent question. I have no good answer. The 10th Heavy Guard was already assembled in the plaza outside. Dwarves in full iron plate armor, shields and warhammers, moving in perfect formation. Metal clinking in unison. Nobody speaking. The air felt like it was made of murder. Iron Dome raised his hand. The squad moved out toward the east tunnel in lockstep. I jogged after them. Iron Dome glanced sideways at me. Stay close. Don't wander off. Trust me, I said. I love being alive more than anything. The east mine entrance was a disaster zone. The massive iron gate had been peeled open like a sardine can. Chunks of lizard armor were embedded in the doorframe. Crystal lamps lay shattered on the ground. The air was sulfur and blood, a smell I was becoming way too familiar with. Iron Dome charged in first, battle energy erupting around his body like a red aura. He swung that warhammer at the nearest stone-armored lizard's skull. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere. The lizard's head cracked. It crashed into a crystal lamp, shattering it. Iron Dome cursed, wound up again, and brought the hammer down a second time. Skull caved in. The lizard's massive body hit the floor like a demolished building, its tail whipping sideways and punching a crater in the tunnel wall. This tiny bearded man was an absolute wrecking ball. I ducked behind a corner and saw the real damage. Dozens of dwarf sentries on the ground. Some with shields shattered and armor caved in, already gone. Others groaning, bleeding, still alive. I ran to the closest one, a guard named Hagar. His shinbone was sticking through his leather armor. He was biting down on nothing, sweat pouring off his forehead, refusing to scream. I cut open his pant leg, grabbed 2 flat pieces of wood from the tunnel debris, and splinted the break with bandages from my first aid kit. Can't set the bone, I told him in my terrible dwarvish. Just stabilizing it. We'll get you out. Hagar gave me a thumbs up through clenched teeth. Learned first aid at a company training once, I muttered while tying the last knot. Never thought I'd use it on a dwarf in another dimension. Next patient. A guard whose shoulder had been splashed with lava scorpion venom. The acid had burned through his armor, and the skin underneath was charred black and blistering. I pinned his flailing arm, cut away the dead skin, doused it with iodine, and wrapped it tight with gauze. I ran back and forth, dragging every wounded dwarf I could move to a safe zone behind the tunnel corner. Then I knelt beside one sentry, whose chest plate was caved in. No pulse. No breathing. I folded his hands over his chest. That's when a stone-armored lizard burst out of a side tunnel. Its tail smashed a support pillar. Rocks and crystal shards rained down. I dove sideways, but a fist-sized chunk nailed me in the shoulder blade. Pain shot through my back like lightning. The lizard turned its head, locked eyes with me, raised its armored shoulders, dug its claws into the stone floor, throwing sparks, and charged. The tunnel was too narrow to dodge. I curled into a ball with my arms over my head and had one final thought. Great. New death unlocked. Eaten by a giant lizard. Adding it to the collection. Boom. A red blur rocketed in from the side. Iron Dome's warhammer, wrapped in blazing battle energy, slammed down on the exact spot where the lizard's head met its neck, the thinnest part of the armor. The shell exploded. Armor fragments flew everywhere like shrapnel. The lizard made one low groan, crashed to the ground, twitched twice, and went still. Iron Dome leaned on his hammer, the battle aura fading from the head. He looked back at me. I coughed up some dusty spit and rubbed my shoulder. Not dead, his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. He nodded. The battle lasted about an hour. The remaining lizards got boxed in by shield formations and systematically hammered in the neck joints. The 2 lava scorpions got surrounded, shields blocking the pincer strikes while concentrated battle energy blasts hit their soft underbellies. Quick and professional. Final count, 18 sentries dead, 7 wounded, 2 of them critical and unconscious. Every single injured dwarf had been treated by yours truly, the interdimensional first aid guy in the waterproof jacket. Iron Dome wiped blood and dust off his face. Those 2 critical ones, if you hadn't stopped their bleeding first, they wouldn't have lasted until we carried them back. Thanks. I waved it off. I should be thanking you. That hammer was half a second from being my eulogy. We looked at each other and both burst out laughing. He slapped my shoulder, nearly flattened me. Dwarves really do not understand the concept of gentle. Your medicine is way better than our herbal stuff. I shoved the rest of my first aid kit into his hands. If it helps, keep it for the troops. His eyes lit up. His grin got even wider. Now that's a brother. Come on, back to the hall. I'm buying you the best malt ale we've got. He threw his arm around my shoulders, and we walked back over the crunching lizard shells. In the great hall, Iron Dome pried open a dark oak barrel with his dagger. The smell hit me immediately, caramel and toasted malt, sweet and rich. He poured 2 copper mugs and raised his. His voice dropped low. First cup. To the warriors who fell today, drained it. Flipped the cup upside down. Poured another. Voice booming now. Second cup. To everyone still standing, I took a sip. Smooth. Caramel melting on the tongue. Slightly bitter finish. Way better than I expected. These tiny guys knew how to brew. Iron Dome walked over, smashed his cup against mine hard enough to slosh ale everywhere. Third cup. To you, for saving my brothers. Drink. I drank. A few cups in, the mood loosened up. Iron Dome got curious about my world. I told him about cars, iron boxes with 4 wheels that burn liquid and travel hundreds of miles. About phones, a little flat rectangle that lets you talk to someone on the other side of the world. About online shopping. You tap the rectangle and someone brings stuff to your door. He was fascinated by all of it. But the thing that truly broke his brain was instant noodles. Wait. You pour hot water on it. And in 3 minutes, it becomes food. He slammed the table so hard the cups jumped. That's perfect for deep mining expeditions. When I mentioned that phones could capture a person's face and store it without any magic, Iron Dome put down his cup, stared at me for several seconds, and got quiet. The playfulness drained from his expression. He finally understood. My world's civilization wasn't just different. It was advanced in ways he couldn't fully wrap his head around. I raised my mug. To you, for not killing me. Iron Dome, deadpan. Almost did. Your Swiss knife saved your life. He poured me another. To you, for not running away. I laughed. Couldn't have outrun you anyway. He shook his head. You could have. You didn't. We looked at each other. Both cracked up. Then I sighed and set my cup down. What's wrong? Iron Dome asked. I stared into my ale. After today, I might never see you again. Every time I cross over, the landing spot is random. I have no idea if I'll ever end up back in the Dwarf Kingdom. Iron Dome blinked. Then, without a word, he stood up and walked out. He came back a few minutes later holding a small rough cloth bag. He tipped it into my palm. Out fell a crystal the size of a thumbnail, irregular shape, rough surface, 3 layers of faint light glowing inside, giving off a slight tingle of static electricity. Ancient locator crystal, he said, taking another sip. Records up to 3 coordinates. Visit a place, push your consciousness into the stone, and you can teleport there later. Each jump costs energy. Recharge it with magic beast cores. The Grand Elder shot to his feet and slammed the stone table. Your Majesty, that crystal has been passed down for 8 generations. It's for the royal bloodline only. Iron Dome didn't even turn around. Rules are rules until they're stupid. If trading with him brings us things we've never had, the whole kingdom benefits. He looked back at the Grand Elder, voice like iron. My father said dwarves shouldn't sit underground guarding rocks until we die. Did you forget that? The Grand Elder opened his mouth, closed it, sat back down, said nothing. I stood there holding this crystal, completely stunned. In video game terms, I'd just been handed an in-game fast travel item in the tutorial zone. This was absurdly, ridiculously, game-breakingly generous. I snapped out of it, dug through my backpack, and pulled out everything modern I had left. Clicked on the flashlight. A beam of white light shot straight up to the ceiling. Several elders craned their necks simultaneously, murmuring in awe. I'm not taking this for free, I said. These are all yours. Iron Dome roared with laughter, clapped twice, and 2 dwarves came in lugging a black wooden barrel, which they slammed onto the stone table with a thunderous thunk. Try this. Furnace core brew. He poured me a full cup. Dark brown liquid, steaming, herbal smell punching straight into my sinuses. Miners drink it before deep tunnel shifts. Keeps you warm. Hits hard. I downed it in one go. The liquid went down my throat like a molten wire. It burned from my tongue to my stomach in a straight, unbroken line of fire. My whole body shuddered. My tongue went numb. Holy, this is stronger than Baijio. The alcohol hit my brain like a freight train. I slammed the table and stood up. I'm gonna sing you a song from Earth. Before anyone could react, I was already belting it out at full volume. Friends walked together through a lifetime. Those days will never come again. The dwarves froze. Looked at each other. Iron Dome was the first to grab his cup and start banging it on the table in rhythm. Clank, clank, clank. The others joined in. Somehow, by pure accident, their banging actually matched the beat. I forgot the lyrics halfway through and just hummed the rest, making up sounds that weren't words in any language. Nobody cared. The hall was rocking. When the song ended, my legs gave out. I face-planted onto the stone table, cold surface pressing against my cheek. It felt amazing. Next time, I slurred into the table. Next time I'm bringing a whole case of Chinese liquor, your booze. My eyelids were concrete. Tastes terrible. Iron Dome was laughing so hard the copper cups on the table were vibrating. Two dwarves walked over, grabbed me, one under the armpits, one by the feet, and carried me off like a sack of ore. I heard dwarvish gibberish swimming around my ears. My head sank into something soft. A pillow. A real pillow. And then consciousness didn't snap off like it usually did. No sharp cut, no death pain, no icy void. Just warm, fuzzy, boozy darkness wrapping around me like a blanket, and I slid gently into nothing. For the first time in 5 crossings, I didn't die. I got drunk to death instead. Which honestly, massive upgrade. I opened my eyes. My old house. The wooden floor. Morning light. I was lying face down on the floor of my childhood bedroom, cheek pressed against the boards, still tasting caramel and charcoal on my tongue. And in my hand, clutched tight, the locator crystal, still tingling. I woke up face down on my childhood bedroom floor with the worst hangover in 2 dimensions. 6:25 a.m. Sunlight stabbing through the window like it had a personal vendetta against my eyeballs. My head felt like Iron Dome had used it for Warhammer practice. My stomach was doing gymnastics. My mouth tasted like a burnt brewery. I tried to push myself up. My arms said, "No thanks," and I face-planted right back down, cracking the back of my skull on the floorboard. Ow. I stared at the ceiling and whispered to nobody. 5th crossing. Cause of death. Drinking. Out-partied by a 4-foot-tall bearded king. Really outdid yourself this time, Chengdong. Took me twice as long as a normal human to stand up. Staggered to the kitchen, chugged half a bottle of water, splashed the rest on my face. Checked my backpack. Empty. I'd given everything to the dwarves. Flashlight, shovel, first aid kits, all of it. But what I got back? I pulled the locator crystal out of the storage bag and held it up to the morning light. 3 layers of glow spinning inside, blue on the outside, white in the middle, gold at the core, tingling against my palm like a tiny battery. 1 coordinate already locked, the Dwarf Kingdom. 2 slots left. This single rock was worth more than everything I'd ever owned combined. A teleportation device. In any video game, this is the item you don't get until you've beaten half the bosses. I got mine by getting drunk. I sat at the old desk and wrote my trip report with hands so shaky the words looked like a toddler's art project. 5th crossing. Landed in Dwarf Forge. Arrested as spy. Dwarf King used ancient scroll. I now speak Dwarvish. Gave away all Earth gear. Received. Ancient locator crystal, 3 coordinates. Needs beast cores for recharge. Promised to bring Baijiu next time. New species, dwarves. Master smiths and miners. Brutally honest. Good drinkers. Good people. New monsters. Stone-armored lizards. Lava scorpions. Cause of death. Alcohol. I updated my death list. Number 5 got a big fat question mark next to it. The full collection now read. Axed by bullman, gored by giant boar, melted by dragon lava, stung by mystery bug, drank too much. Honestly, number 5 was a massive upgrade in the dying department. I closed the notebook, leaned back, and smiled. Memories flickered. Iron Dome roaring toasts. The old craftsman literally skipping away with my Swiss Army knife. Dwarf warriors smashing lizard skulls in formation. For the first time, I'd crossed over and actually had a good time before dying. Roosters crowed outside. I washed my face with cold well water, walked to the living room, lit 3 sticks of incense in front of my parents' photo. Mom. Dad. When I'm strong enough, I'll find out what really happened with the fire. 3 years. Too many unanswered questions. A brand new factory with old wiring. An investigation that hit dead ends everywhere. A settlement that came suspiciously fast. No evidence of anything wrong, which was exactly the problem. I packed up quick. Not much to take. Toiletries, 1 photo of me and my parents, the storage bag with everything important. The ginseng money was almost gone, maybe 20-something thousand left. I needed income, which meant I needed to sell some of that interdimensional gold and silver. But I also needed a cover story. A legit business. A base of operations somewhere with real infrastructure. After thinking it over, Beijing. Capital city. Biggest market. Best channels for antiques and precious metals. If I was going to build a 2-world trading empire, that was the place. I paid the neighbor lady 1,000 yuan to keep an eye on the house, locked up, pulled weeds from the yard, and caught the village bus out. Afternoon, high-speed train. 3.5 hours later, I stepped out into Beijing's evening chaos. Found a cheap short-term rental on the outskirts. No crossing tonight. Zero supplies prepared. No point going over empty-handed. Planning first, adventuring later. Next day, I went coin shopping. Or rather, coin selling. I hit 10 different shops across the city. Antique stores, gold-silver recyclers, pawn shops. One visit each. 1 or 2 coins max per shop. Never the same place twice. Spread the heat. First stop, a fancy old antique shop. I placed a single gold coin on the counter. The owner picked it up, held it to the light, turned it over and over, ran his thumb across the weird symbols nobody in this world had ever seen, pushed up his reading glasses, and looked at me. Interesting craftsmanship. Never seen patterns like these. If you're serious about selling. 72,000. I kept a straight face. Can you go higher? He grinned with a mouthful of yellow teeth. Kid, 72 is already generous. That's because the design is unique. Deal. He watched me leave with the look of a man who desperately wanted more coins. You got any more of these? I'll pay top price for every one. Just that one. Grandpa's old stuff. Nothing left. He didn't believe me. Didn't push it either. Second shop, 75,000 for the next gold coin. By the end of the morning, 18 silver coins at 800 to 1,200 each, 2 gold coins sold as folk replica exotic ancient coin display pieces. Total haul, roughly 170,000 yuan. Combined with what I had left, about 200,000 in working capital. Multiple shop owners mentioned the same thing. The writing on the silver coins doesn't match any known ancient civilization. One old guy asked if they were smuggled from overseas. I gave everyone the grandpa story, but I knew that excuse had an expiration date. No more selling for now. What I didn't notice, when I walked out of the third pawn shop, a black van was parked at the corner. Someone inside raised a camera and snapped my photo. That afternoon, I went shopping for trip 6. Since I had the locator crystal, I could teleport straight to the dwarf kingdom. No random landings, no survival lottery. So instead of packing like a doomsday prepper, I shifted to dwarf diplomacy supplies plus basic self-defense. First priority, alcohol. 1 case of Red Star Erguo 2, 12 bottles. 2 5-liter jugs of bulk baijiu. A few beers for variety. 10 vacuum-sealed bags of braised beef and sauced pork knuckle. 50 lighters. Because dwarves would lose their minds over instant fire. Tech samples took the most thought. A mechanical wristwatch, a solar-powered calculator, a steel tape measure and calipers, 2 stainless steel insulated thermoses. All stuff that works without electricity or magic, perfect for blowing dwarf minds. Self-defense kept simple. A round-tipped watermelon knife, don't ask. A folding military shovel, a multi-tool kit, a blinding bright tactical flashlight, and 10 first aid kits. The dwarves had gone crazy over the iodine and bandages last time. Food. Compressed biscuits, half a box of energy bars, 6 cups of instant noodles. Iron Dome was going to flip when he saw the noodles in action. Also packed, the mystery potion vials and colored crystals from the Dragon Cave storage bag, carefully wrapped in cloth. This time I was absolutely getting Iron Dome to identify them. And a hardcover notebook with pens. Time to start building a proper intelligence file on the world of Eldoris. Back at the rental that night, I sorted everything. Heavy and valuable stuff went into the spatial storage bag. Light stuff in the backpack. Bought a digital watch to track time in the other world. 10 p.m. Everything ready. 11:50 p.m. Sitting on the bed edge. Full gear. Locator crystal clenched in my fist. Heart rate climbing. Quick mental note. Please work in Beijing. Please still work in Beijing. The rule is closed eyes at midnight, not closed eyes at midnight in a specific building. Eyes closed. 11:59. Palms sweating. 12 o'clock. Click. Consciousness came back with a slap of heat. Dry, burning wind from every direction. Every breath felt like swallowing boiling water. My throat and lungs screamed. I tried to open my eyes and got blinded instantly. Blazing golden light, searing everywhere. I was standing in the middle of a desert. Not a normal desert. An infinite desert. Endless golden sand dunes rolling to every horizon like frozen tidal waves. One massive sun hung in the sky, pouring liquid gold across the landscape, turning every grain of sand into a tiny ember. In the distance, a sand ridge the size of a mountain range cut across the sky, wind churning sand along its crest like the spine of a living golden dragon. No sound except howling wind. Nothing alive. Nothing moving. The silence was the scary kind. Sweat rolled down my forehead and hit the sand. It evaporated before I could blink. Just gone. The sand was that hot. Then I heard it. A sound from underneath. A scratching, grinding noise rising from deep below the sand. Like a million tiny legs scraping through the earth. Getting closer. Getting faster. The ground started shaking. The sand under my feet began bubbling, heaving up and down like the desert had turned into a pot of boiling water. I couldn't stand. I dropped to all fours and scrambled toward a sand slope. The shaking went from bad to catastrophic. What the? I asked the desert having an earthquake. The entire landscape turned into a boiling ocean of sand. Giant bubbles of sand ballooned up and burst. Behind me, the ground exploded upward. A wave of stench hit, rotting meat and sulfur. Boom. Something erupted out of the sand. A sand tsunami, 50 feet high, blasted into the sky. Scalding sand pelted my face like buckshot, each grain burning on impact. I threw my arms over my face and peeked through my fingers. I saw the most terrifying thing I have ever seen in any world. A snake. Except calling it a snake is like calling the sun a light bulb. The part of its body sticking out of the sand was as tall as a 15-story building. Its body was thick enough to park 3 trucks side by side on top of it. Its scales were the color of desert rock, each one the size of a millstone, gleaming like polished metal in the sunlight. It let out a hiss that stabbed directly into my eardrums. Then its head turned. 2 dark gold vertical pupils locked onto me. Just me. A tiny, insignificant, very terrified human standing on a sand dune in his hiking boots and waterproof jacket. It opened its mouth. Row after row after row of fangs, each one longer than my entire arm, tips glinting like blades. Between the teeth, bones and rotting chunks of whatever it ate last, which was probably something much bigger and tougher than me. The stench hit me like a physical wall. My head spun. My stomach heaved. I wanted to run. My legs had other plans. They turned into overcooked noodles, and I dropped to my knees in the sand. My whole body locked up. I couldn't move a finger. The snake's head plunged downward like a falling skyscraper. Wind pressure hit first. My clothes snapped and fluttered like flags in a hurricane. I nearly went airborne. I could see down its throat. I could see the venom dripping off its fangs in thick, sizzling ropes. I could see my own tiny, pathetic reflection in those golden slit pupils. Death didn't knock this time. It kicked the door down, walked in, and sat on my chest. I screamed the only word that fit. And oh, let me tell you about the most embarrassing moment of my entire life. Both lives. All dimensions included. The giant snake's fangs were inches from my skull. I could feel the cold of its teeth. I could see my own pathetic reflection in its golden slit pupils. I could smell what it had for lunch, which was apparently everything. My brain had completely shut down. Every rational thought was gone. My body had already accepted death. But my hand, bless my stupid, panicking hand, was digging through my pocket like a mole on caffeine. Fingers touched something cold. The locator crystal. The snake's jaws were closing. Its breath was on my face. One more millisecond, and I'd be a human chicken nugget sliding down a throat the size of a highway tunnel. I squeezed that crystal so hard I thought my bones would crack and screamed inside my head. Dwarf Kingdom. Now. Go. Teleport. Move, 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 flash. White light exploded from my palm. 3 rings of light spiraled open. Space itself made a sound like fabric ripping. Snap. The snake's jaws slammed shut, on empty air. The impact cratered the sand several meters deep. But I was already gone. Cold stone under my feet. I hit the ground hard, skidded across the floor, and slid a good few meters before stopping. I lay there gasping like a fish on a dock. Sand in my mouth, sand in my throat, heart trying to physically escape my chest cavity. I looked up. The Dwarf King's hall. Empty. Silent. Just me and my hyperventilating. I sat on the cold stone floor, shaking uncontrollably. That had been close. Not close, like the other times. That was, the snake's tooth literally grazed my hair, close. A fraction of a second slower, and there wouldn't have been enough of me left to teleport. My back was soaked in cold sweat. I looked down at the crystal in my trembling hand and immediately doubled over, dry heaving onto the beautiful dwarf stonework. Then I noticed something else. A warm, wet feeling in my pants area. I looked down. Yep, Chung Dong, interdimensional traveler, dragon cave raider, dwarf befriender, survivor of 5 deaths across 2 worlds, had peed myself. In my defense, a building-sized snake tried to eat me. In my further defense, the fear had been so pure and absolute that I'd completely forgotten I could just die and respawn back home. My survival instincts had overridden the cheat code. That's how terrifying that snake was. It made me forget I was basically immortal. Footsteps outside the hall. A dwarf guard burst in, warhammer raised, ready for action. He saw me, lowered the hammer. Confused face. You again? How'd you get in? The doors are sealed. The security wards didn't even trigger. I was sitting on the floor, one hand holding up the crystal, the other hand very casually covering my crotch area. Your king gave me this, I said weakly. Works great. The guard looked at the crystal. Looked at me. His expression shifted from suspicious to, I don't get paid enough for this. Hey buddy, I said, trying to sound casual and not like a man who had just soiled himself in a king's throne room. Is there somewhere I can wash up? I'm covered in sand. Also, I fished a can of beer from my backpack with my free hand and held it out. This is beer. It's a gift. Take me to a bath, and I'll explain everything later. Gotta see your king after. There was absolutely zero chance I was letting Iron Dome see me like this. He would never let me live it down. 300 years of dwarf memory. And the human who peed himself in my throne room would be the story told at every feast until the mountain crumbled. The guard took the beer, eyes lighting up at the shiny can, thankfully not noticing my situation, and led me to the baths. Crisis managed. Dignity, partially salvageable. I came back to the hall freshly washed, wearing my spare tactical outfit, smelling like a human being instead of a desert-baked fear puddle. Iron Dome came striding in from another chamber, arms wide, laughing so loud the echoes bounced off every wall. I knew you'd figure out the crystal. Back already? Did you bring the ergwo too and noodles? I grinned and started pulling things out of my backpack and storage bag like a mall Santa having the best shift of his life. First, the ergwo too. 12 bottles, lined up on the stone table like soldiers at attention. Iron Dome grabbed one, turning the glass bottle around in his thick fingers, studying the metal cap, fascinated. The elders crowded in, doing the same thing. I cracked one open. The smell of strong Chinese liquor wafted out. Every dwarf nose in the room twitched simultaneously, like synchronized swimming but with nostrils. Poured half a copper mug for Iron Dome. He took a sip, paused, then down the whole thing. 2 seconds of silence. Then a boom of laughter. Now we're talking. Everything you said last time was true. He immediately poured himself another. I started pouring for the elders while continuing to unload. 2 jugs of bulk baijiu, braised beef, sauced pork knuckle. I ripped open a vacuum pack of pork knuckle and handed it to Iron Dome. He bit into it. His face went through confusion, surprise, and pure joy in about 2 seconds. The remaining elders swarmed the table. Dignified 300-year-old dwarf scholars literally shoving each other out of the way to grab vacuum-packed meat. I watched a grand elder elbow a fellow elder in the ribs over the last piece of beef. Beautiful. Next, 50 lighters, dumped on the table in a clinking pile. I flicked one. Flame popped up. Every dwarf simultaneously flinched backward, then immediately lunged forward. They lined up to take turns, each one clicking a lighter with the focus and reverence of a child with a new toy. Arguments broke out about which thumb angle produced the best flame. I stood to the side dying of laughter. Then the main event, tech samples. I popped the back off the mechanical watch. Old Master Iron Fist, the head craftsman, snatched it out of my hands and jammed it under his magnifying lens before I could blink. Hey, that's not waterproof. Don't break it. He didn't hear me. He was already removing the watch band. The man was in his own world. A tiny, gear-filled, beautiful world. Iron Dome pressed buttons on the solar calculator. Numbers appeared on the screen. He looked up at me. No magic? No magic. 5 seconds of silence. This is more impressive than the watch. You're teaching me how to use this. Meanwhile, another elder, Master Ironstone, had pulled the steel tape measure out to full length, watched it lock, pressed the button, and flinched when it snapped back. He immediately compared its markings against a copper ruler, then started disassembling the spring mechanism. These dwarves were born engineers. They could not take things apart. I poured hot water into a thermos, sealed it, waited a minute, and opened it. Steam rose out. Iron Dome flipped the thermos upside down, shook it, looked for hidden compartments. Found nothing. Stared at the stainless steel with genuine awe. When I explained vacuum insulation, no magic, just two walls of metal with nothing between them, he nodded slowly and said, "I'll take both. Now for the real business." I pulled out all the mystery potions and the 8 colored crystals from the dragon cave and asked Iron Dome to identify them. He picked up the vials one by one. Red, healing potion. Instantly repairs injuries. Absolute lifesaver. Guard this with your life. Blue, mana restoration. For mages. Useless to you unless you learn magic. White, antidote. Counters most poisons. Would have been really nice to have during trip 4 when that bug killed me. Green, agility potion. Temporarily boosts speed and reflexes. Warning, when it wears off, the fatigue hits double. So basically fantasy caffeine with a crash. He handed them back. These are all rare. Protect them. Then the crystals. He examined each one carefully. The big red one, level 6 fire attribute magic beast core. 2 medium reds, level 4 fire. 1 blue-green, level 5 water. 2 small ones, level 2 wind. 1 dull one, level 1 earth. Then he picked up the last crystal, clear, colorless, unremarkable looking, and stared at it longer than the others. His eyebrows scrunched together. He set it apart from the rest. His voice dropped. This one is level 5 spatial attribute, the rarest type in existence. Under the right conditions, it can affect the structure of space itself. Spatial equipment and teleportation arrays. They're made with these. He looked me dead in the eyes. Where did you get this? Found it by accident. He studied my face. Didn't push. Handed it back. Keep it hidden. Don't let anyone see it. There are people who would trade an entire mine for one of these. Then he explained something I desperately needed to know. All 8 cores could recharge the locator crystal. A level 1 core gives 1 charge. Higher levels give more. The method was simple. Hold the core against the crystal and mentally push the energy in. He demonstrated with the level 1 earth core. The core slowly dimmed, then crumbled to powder. The crystal's blue glow brightened back to full. I breathed a massive sigh of relief. Recharging was easy. Getting more cores was the hard part. Guess I'd be trading with the dwarves for those too. I distributed the rest of the food and booze freely. The braised beef and pork knuckle vanished in seconds. I made 3 cups of instant noodles. Iron Dome chose the spicy flavor. He took 1 bite. His face turned red. His eyes watered. He started coughing. He grabbed his mug and chugged Erguo-2 to kill the burn. Then, between coughs, he yelled, "This is amazing. More." Master Iron Fist had commandeered the mechanical watch and the tape measure and sent an apprentice running to the workshop for disassembly tools. That watch was never coming back in one piece. Trading time. I exchanged the watch, the multi-tool kit, the calculator, and spare lighters for a stack of gold and silver ingots, a dozen gemstones, and several pieces of elven-style silver jewelry. The jewelry was interesting, commissions from the elves decades ago. Elves paid the deposit, never picked up the finished pieces. Dwarves had no use for them. I examined the craftsmanship. Elven aesthetic was incredible. Delicate, flowing, organic designs. These would sell for insane prices back on Earth. High-end boutique territory. Gave all 10 first aid kits to Iron Dome. He accepted them solemnly, like I'd handed him sacred relics. Iodine and bandages, the real treasure of the modern world. After the trades, more drinking. Iron Dome mentioned casually that my supply volume was pathetic. A few things here and there. Wasn't going to build a real trading relationship. I spread my hands helplessly. My backpack's only so big. If I had a bigger spatial storage device. Iron Dome went quiet. Awkward silence. Obviously the dwarves had bigger spatial gear, but that was kingdom-level equipment, not something you hand to a foreign visitor, no matter how much you like his liquor. But he promised to help me find the Void Folk. Apparently, there's an entire race in Eldoris that specializes in crafting spatial equipment. Only problem, they're nomadic and unpredictable. In the meantime, he unclipped a small leather pouch from his belt, pulled out a ring, and set it on the table. Silver band. Faint purple glow. No gemstone. No decoration, just a ring of fine engravings around the surface. 2 cubic meters of storage space inside, Iron Dome said, pushing it toward me with a grin. Trade you for booze. Next time you visit, fill this ring with erguo too. That's the deal. I slipped it on. The ring auto-adjusted to fit perfectly. I pushed my consciousness inside. A clean, organized space roughly the size of a large closet. Twice the size of the pouch. I tucked the ring into the storage bag carefully. Deal. Now, the thing I'd been wondering about since trip 1. I pulled the beast tooth necklace out of my collar and laid it on the table. Iron Dome glanced down. His tipsy expression evaporated. He set his mug down, picked up the necklace, and held it under a crystal lamp, studying the largest fong closely. Faint yellow luster. Hairline cracks at the root. These are behemoth teeth. His voice had a note of disbelief. A juvenile behemoth, but still, a genuine level 7 creature. All 7 teeth are from the same beast. Where did you get these? I told him. First crossing a battlefield, ripped them off a bull-headed beastman's neck right before getting axed to death. Iron Dome placed the necklace back on the table. His face was serious now. Against low-level beasts, this is a deterrent. Anything level 5 or below will smell the behemoth's aura and actively avoid you. But to high-level beasts? This is a challenge. A provocation. He paused. Behemoths are level 7. Top of the food chain. Wearing their teeth in the wild is basically screaming, "Fight me," at every apex predator within smelling distance. My spine turned to ice. Suddenly everything made sense. The dragon waking up and breathing fire, behemoth teeth. The desert megasnake attacking me the instant I appeared, behemoth teeth. Every high-level encounter that went wrong. Me. Wearing the necklace. I'd been walking around with a "Please try to kill me" sign hanging from my neck this whole time. Iron Dome handed the necklace back. You're a human carrying a beastman holy relic. In dwarf territory, wear it all you want. We don't steal from friends. But in the wild, hide it in your storage bag immediately. Any beastman who wears behemoth teeth is at least a minor chieftain. The beastman clans will come looking for this. I stuffed the necklace into the deepest corner of the storage bag and added another mystery to the growing pile. Who was that bull-headed beastman? And why was he wearing a level 7 holy relic on a random battlefield? Iron Dome saw me spiraling. He clapped my shoulder, nearly dislocated it, as usual. Stop overthinking. Drink. You're too weak right now anyway. Keep the necklace. It'll save your life more often than it'll endanger it. Just be smart about when you wear it. Huh. You're right. Big brother. We clinked mugs. Iron Dome laughed and leaned in. You know why I trust you so much? I drank. Blinked. Why? Because we dwarves have a racial gift. Only one purpose. We can sense exactly how any living being truly feels about us. Hostility, deception, greed. We detect it all. He bit into a pork knuckle and washed it down with erguo too. You're different from the humans of Eldoris. There's a sincerity to you. That's why I gave you the locator crystal. That's why I trust you. My chest went tight for a second. It had been a long time since anyone, human, dwarf, or otherwise, told me they trusted me and actually meant it. I raised my cup. Brother Iron Dome. To friendship that lasts. Drained it. Yes. Drink. After that, my memory started breaking up like a bad phone signal. I remember fragments. Iron Dome pouring something called Gold Spring, a honeymead thing brewed with underground river water and mountain honey, golden and bubbly, low alcohol, tasted like fancy ginger ale made by angels. Perfect summer drink. I remember teaching Iron Dome how to use the calculator. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. He was delighted. Like a kid with a new gaming console. I remember him hiccuping and saying, "Your world's people are truly incredible. No magic, and you still build all these wonders." I remember the last clear moment. My face pressed against the cold stone table, Iron Dome's voice somewhere above me saying, "Next time bring that thing called a phone," and my own slurred response. "There's no signal here. What's the point of bringing a phone?" Then 2 dwarves hoisted me up, one under the arms, one at the feet, my second time being carried out of the hall like a drunk sack of potatoes. The warm, fuzzy, sliding into darkness feeling came again. Not like dying. No pain. No fear. Just booze and friendship and gravity pulling me into sleep. My last coherent thought. I need to pace myself next time. If I keep passing out drunk every visit, Iron Dome's going to think I'm a lightweight who runs away before round 2. Which is technically exactly what's happening. I tried to lift my wrist to check the time. Consciousness ended mid-reach. I woke up on the floor of my Beijing rental. Again, becoming a pattern. 6:12 a.m. Hangover wasn't as brutal this time. Progress. My liver was developing interdimensional alcohol tolerance. Quick inventory check. Gold ingots, silver ingots, gemstones, elven jewelry, a 2 cubic meters spatial ring on my finger. All accounted for. My digital watch, however, was dead. Apparently Earth electronics don't survive magical teleportation. Noted, stop bringing watches. I spent the morning writing notes. Potion effects, crystal types, behemoth necklace intel, all logged. Then I added something under the dwarf entry that felt important. Dwarves are curious about Earth tech, but also nervous about it. Don't show off too much. Nobody likes feeling inferior. Smart diplomacy. Who knew getting killed repeatedly would make me wise? Time to handle real-world business. I'd spotted a shop for rent near the antique district. 80 square meters, commercial residential hybrid, right next to the high foot traffic zone. Perfect for quietly selling interdimensional loot without raising eyebrows. Signed the lease that morning. 6 months rent plus transfer fee. Named the shop Elderish Trading Company, because apparently I have zero chill about keeping my 2 lives separate. Registered the business with a scope so broad you could drive a truck through it. Food, daily goods, arts and crafts, collectibles, decorative weapons, toys, anime merchandise. Basically anything I could possibly drag out of a fantasy world and slap a price tag on. Got the business license done by lunch. Had workers clean up the shop in the afternoon. Stocked shelves with normal Earth products as cover. Converted the back storage room into my living quarters. Folding bed, desk, chair, wardrobe. Home sweet warehouse. Decided to skip crossing for a few days. Needed to sell some dwarf-traded goods, pay down debt, and plan the next trip properly. For once, adulting before adventuring. Day 1 of the shop. I started jogging every morning at 6 a.m. around the artificial lake near the antique district. After getting chased by boars, dragons, giant snakes, and cow-sized ants across multiple dimensions, I figured my cardio could use some work. My current fitness level was office. Worker who smokes too much, which is roughly 1 step above, already dead. One morning, rounding the east bend of the lake, I saw someone lying on the road. Old man. White hair everywhere. Covered in blood. Curled up on the pavement. One leg twisted at a wrong angle. His jacket torn from shoulder to waist. Road rash all down his arms. Blood foam bubbling at the corner of his mouth. Skid marks on the asphalt. Long black tire streaks from the middle of the road to the shoulder. No car in sight. Hit and run. I knelt beside him. He was conscious, barely. His eyes found mine, cloudy and fading. Blood still slowly oozing from his mouth. I looked around. Empty road. No cars. No cameras on the utility poles. My rational brain screamed, don't get involved. You're in debt. You have secrets. If this guy's family shows up and accuses you of hitting him, you're finished. Walk away. His eyes kept staring at me. Milky, desperate, dying. My emotional brain screamed back. You have a healing potion in your pocket, you absolute coward. But, healing potion. On a public road. If anyone saw me pour a glowing red mystery liquid into an old man's mouth, how would I explain that? Oh, it's just, vitamins. From another dimension. Don't worry about it. Rational brain and emotional brain wrestled for about 5 seconds. Emotional brain won by knockout. Screw it. I reached into my pocket, mentally accessed the spatial ring, and palmed a vial of red healing potion. Gently opened the old man's mouth. Poured it in. The effect was instant. His body seized, went rigid, then relaxed. In seconds, literal seconds, the deathly gray drained from his face, replaced by a weak but alive pallor. The blood foam stopped. His breathing steadied. The potion worked in the real world. And it worked fast. I grabbed his phone, called 120, gave the location and situation, hung up, stood up, dusted off my knees, and kept jogging. Didn't look back. Would his family come looking for the person who saved him? Would they try to blame me instead? Would the hospital run tests and find unexplainable miracle healing? Not my problem. I did what I could. The rest was someone else's paperwork. Back at the shop, showered, clean clothes, sitting behind the counter writing plans. My brain was doing excited math. That healing potion was worth more than gold. If I could get more from Iron Dome, I could, no. I only had 2 left. Used 1 on a stranger. The remaining 2 were for keeping me alive. And how would I sell magic medicine on Earth? Buy my unlabeled red liquid. Side effects include being alive. Yeah, that business model had some regulatory issues. Afternoon. Around 2 p.m. I was hunched over the counter writing a supply list when the door opened. The little bell jingled. 3 men walked in. The front guy was about 50, wearing a custom-tailored charcoal suit with a matching dark patterned tie. Hair slicked back without a strand out of place. Face, blank. Eyes, razor blades. He moved like a man who'd spent decades making decisions for very powerful people and had forgotten how to be questioned. Behind him, 2 younger guys in black suits. Tall, perfect posture. Hands at their sides in that specific way that screams, I know 12 ways to break your arm. Professional bodyguards. Real ones. Not gym bros in nice jackets. These men were not here to buy snacks. The atmosphere in my tiny shop dropped about 15 degrees. The suit walked up to my counter. No greeting. No small talk. He reached into his pocket and placed something on the counter. A gold coin. My gold coin. The one I'd sold at the antique shop. The wedge-shaped alien text was unmistakable. Kid. Where'd this come from? His eyes locked onto mine. Voice polite. Tone absolutely not. My heart skipped a beat. My face didn't move. I picked up my water bottle, took a sip, leaned back in my chair. My grandpa left it to me. Problem? Your grandpa? The corner of his mouth twitched. Not a smile. More like a predator adjusting its jaw. What did your grandpa do? Where was he from? When did he leave this to you? He collected stuff. Didn't tell me the details before he passed. I set the water bottle down. Voice flat. Bored even. The suit stared at me for 2 seconds, then pulled out a photograph and placed it next to the coin. A silver coin. Also mine. Also from Eldoris. This silver coin and your gold coin share a writing system that doesn't match any known ancient civilization on Earth. I had experts check. The gold purity is abnormally high. The minting technique isn't lost wax, isn't die press. The precision is at the micrometer level. That kind of manufacturing? Your grandpa couldn't have done it. Your grandpa's grandpa couldn't have done it. My insides clenched. This guy had run laboratory analysis on my coins. He'd consulted linguists. He'd measured manufacturing tolerances. This was not a casual antique dealer poking around. I kept my face neutral. So what are you exactly? A coin collector? Something like that? He pocketed the gold coin, leaned forward, both hands on my counter, lowered his voice. The pressure in the room doubled. These aren't just old coins, kid. I've talked to ancient script experts. I've talked to materials labs. Nobody can identify the writing. Nobody can explain how the gold was refined to that purity. If you're smart, you'll tell me where these really came from. Don't make trouble for yourself. I sat up straight and looked him dead in the eyes. Sir, I run a legitimate business. These were my grandfather's belongings. If you have a complaint, call the police. Otherwise, please don't disturb my work. His face went cold. He stared at me for a long time. The politeness evaporated, replaced by ice. Then he tapped the counter twice, turned, and walked toward the door. The bodyguards followed. One of them glanced back at me on the way out. At the door, the suit stopped. Didn't turn around. Kid, nothing stays hidden in Beijing. You won't talk? That's fine. Someone will make you talk. You've got 3 days. The door slammed shut. The bell jingled cheerfully, completely unaware of the threat that just walked out. I sat behind the counter. My palms were swimming pools. I grabbed the water bottle and chugged. My heartbeat slowly came down from hummingbird speed. The thing I'd been afraid of had happened. Selling those coins had left a trail, and someone with serious resources had followed it straight to my door. Fast. Terrifyingly fast. I'd been worried when that first antique shop owner asked if the coins were from overseas. Now a man with bodyguards and access to materials laboratories was giving me a 3-day deadline. Who was this guy? A coin dealer who can summon lab reports and train security personnel isn't just a coin dealer. That's someone connected. Seriously connected. In the real world, I wasn't totally defenseless. There were cameras, laws, police. But if this guy played dirty, off the books, I was a scrawny ex-office worker with 0 combat ability. My fighting experience consisted entirely of running away and dying across multiple dimensions. I thought about Iron Dome swinging that warhammer, battle energy exploding off the head, caving in a stone-armored lizard's skull, in one hit. That was power. Real, physical, undeniable power. Could I learn that? Battle energy? Combat techniques? If magic worked, if potions worked in my world, maybe battle energy would too? I needed to ask Iron Dome. Immediately. My original plan was to spend a few more days handling real-world business. The suit guy's visit changed that. Tonight, I was going back. By evening, my supplies had arrived. Packed everything up. 2 cases of beer this time, plus the usual trading goods. Strapped on the behemoth tooth necklace, Iron Dome said it would scare off anything level 5 and below, and top-tier monsters weren't exactly lurking on every corner. For my current power level of wet paper towel, I needed every advantage. 11 p.m. Rolled down the shop's metal shutter. Geared up in the back room, sitting on the folding bed. Backpack against my chest. Locator crystal in my fist. 11:58. Eyes closed. Midnight. Click. I opened my eyes in a canyon. Steep, dark red rock walls on both sides, rough and layered, stretching endlessly in both directions. The sky was a narrow crack above me, barely letting in light. The air was dry and stank, some kind of chemical, acrid smell that made my eyes water. Then the ground started shaking. Not randomly, rhythmically, like a drumbeat getting louder. A deep rumbling rolled down the canyon from the far end. Pebbles rattled off the walls. A few chunks of rock crashed down near my feet. I looked toward the sound. A wall of dust. The entire far end of the canyon was hidden behind a rolling brown cloud. Dark shapes poured out of the dust. I squinted. My blood froze. Ants. Ants the size of baby cows. Black chitinous shells gleaming like polished metal. 6 legs moving in perfect sync, producing a unified shhhhhh like sand pouring through an hourglass. Mandibles the size of curved swords, clicking open and shut. Clack, 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 clack. 1,000 of them at once. They filled the entire canyon floor. A black river of giant insects, flowing toward me at alarming speed. Where they passed, the ground dissolved, stone and dirt melting into gray-green acid sludge. My hand flew to the locator crystal. Then I noticed something weird. About 30 meters from me, the ant swarm split. Like water hitting a boulder, the column divided around me, flowing past on both sides without a single ant coming closer. They rejoined behind me and kept going, not even acknowledging my existence. I stood there, heart machine gunning, watching thousands of cow-sized ants stream past me like I was a traffic cone. I looked down at the behemoth tooth necklace. Iron Dome, you beautiful bearded genius. Level 5 and below, he said. These ants must have been low level, because the behemoth scent was repelling them like bug spray. Without this necklace, I'd have been dissolved into green paste in about 4 seconds. Once the swarm passed, I didn't hang around to see if there were more. Grabbed the locator crystal, pictured the Dwarf King's Hall, pushed my intent into the stone. Flash. Rip. Seal. I landed on the stone floor of the Dwarf Kingdom, and immediately felt something was wrong. I materialized in a corner of the Dwarf King's Hall, and immediately knew something was off. Iron Dome was sitting at the stone table surrounded by elders, and nobody was drinking. In dwarf culture, that's basically a 5-alarm emergency. The Grand Elder's beard was practically vibrating with agitation, and Iron Dome was drumming his fingers on the table edge with the kind of expression that says, "I'm trying very hard not to hit something." A guard spotted me. Before he could yell, Iron Dome waved him down. "Your teleporting's getting smoother, kid." His voice had a compliment in it, but his face was all wrong. I grabbed a stone stool and sat down. No point being polite when the room felt like a pressure cooker. "What happened?" Iron Dome sighed, which was terrifying, because this man does not sigh, and laid it out. A beastman tribe and a human kingdom had gone to war. The battle lines cut right between the Dwarf Kingdom and the Elven Forest, blocking every trade route. Here's the problem. Dwarves are world-class at exactly 3 things: forging metal, mining ore, and brewing alcohol. Farming? Not on the menu. Literally. Their entire kingdom is underground rock and mineral veins. Not a single wheat field anywhere. All their food came from trading with the elves, who had fertile land and magic water that made crops grow fast. Weapons and tools for grain, a deal that had worked for generations. Now the supply line was cut. The pantry was running low. An entire civilization of stocky, strong, beer-loving people was about to run out of food. Iron Dome's eyes suddenly lit up. "Hey, Your world's food is pretty good. Can you supply us in bulk? I winced. Brother, I can carry one backpack, one storage pouch, and one ring. Total capacity, 3 cubic meters. That's enough to feed maybe 10 people? For a day? Your kingdom has how many thousands? My supply would be a crumb in a canyon. Iron Dome deflated and patted my shoulder. Yeah, fair point. I excused myself to a side chamber so the elders could strategize without the alien tourist hovering. When I came back, the meeting had broken up and Iron Dome looked slightly less doomed. They must have figured something out. Big brother, your booze order is ready. Plus some extras. I started unloading. Ergo too, of course, snacks, and the real surprises, modern borax, high-temperature industrial lubricant, and several illustrated books on modern metalworking techniques. Iron Dome eyed the new stuff curiously. The borax is a flux agent, helps purify metal during smelting. The lubricant handles extreme heat, perfect for forge equipment bearings. His eyebrows shot up. He immediately sent someone to fetch the master craftsman. While we waited, I cracked open 2 beers, one for him, one for me, and got to business. Iron Dome, I need a favor. You call me Big Brother. Just say it. I told him about Selin. The elf woman from the slave camp. Described her as best I could. The sharp features, the pointed ears, the unbreakable look in her eyes, the way she'd drawn the guards away so I could escape. Iron Dome nodded. Small thing. With the war blocking the roads, news isn't flowing, but I'll send scouts to keep an eye out. He paused. Just, don't get your hopes up on timing. Could take a while. I nodded. I understood. Then Iron Dome opened the metalworking book. His jaw dropped. Incredible. 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 He slammed the table 3 times. Nearly cracked it, pointing at a cross-section diagram of a blast furnace. This thing is 10 times bigger than our largest furnace. That's actually the smallest civilian model, I said casually. There are bigger ones. 2 blurs rocketed in from nowhere. Iron Fist snatched the book out of Iron Dome's hands and pressed his face so close to the page his nose was touching the paper. Slow down. Don't RIP it. Ironstone was behind him, grabbing at the edges, both of them hunched over the book like 2 kids fighting over a comic. Iron Fist hit the page on continuous casting and rolling. His finger traced the diagram slowly, muttering, so the molten iron can just flow into shape. No hammering. Ironstone was glued to the alloy composition table, tugging his beard so hard I thought it might come off. You can add this many things to iron? No wonder that little knife of yours was so hard. I let them geek out for a bit, then made my pitch. Iron Dome, I've got a business proposal for the Dwarf Kingdom. Talk. His eyes were still stuck to the book. I provide the designs. Your people forge armor and weapons for me. He looked up. But here's the thing. No sharpened edges, no combat functionality. Make them as light as possible. Add lots of decorative engravings. Basically, make them pretty, not deadly. Pretty? Iron Dome stared at me like I'd asked him to knit a sweater. Not for fighting? Nope. People in my world collect this stuff. Decorative armor, ornamental swords. If you can produce them in batches, I can sell them for serious money. And I'll bring more technical books in return. Iron Dome thumped his chest. Done. But we dwarves custom make everything. Batch production will take some time. He yelled over his shoulder. Iron Fist. Ironstone. Both. Without looking up. Whatever it is, fine. This job's yours. Iron Fist handles design. Ironstone handles forging. Yeah. I pulled out printed design sketches from my notebook. Start with these light armor sets, embossed breastplates, layered shoulder guards. And this long sword, unsharpened, elven-style floral patterns on the hilt. Iron Fist finally put down the furnace book, took my sketches, scanned them, and immediately shook his head. This armor's too thin. Wouldn't stop an axe. But the elven patterns? Those I can do beautifully. Perfect. Thin is exactly what I want. Shipping weight matters when your logistics system is 1 human with a magic fanny pack. Business settled. Time for the question that had been burning a hole in my brain since I watched Iron Dome one-shot a stone lizard. Iron Dome. That red battle energy you used. The warhammer glowing. The armor-shattering impact. Any chance I could learn that? Iron Dome's beer froze halfway to his mouth. He set it down. The entire hall went quiet. Iron Fist looked up from the book. Ironstone stopped tugging his beard. Every elder turned to stare at me. Silence. With your physique? You sure? Iron Dome looked me up and down. I don't even know if humans from your world have compatible bodies. Elderous humans and your world humans might be built different on the inside. He took a long swig. Our dwarf battle energy techniques definitely won't work for you, species locked. But we can test whether you have cultivation talent first. If you don't have the spark, it doesn't matter how many secret manuals I hand you. Nothing will ignite. Let's test it. I clench my fists. A mysterious man in a suit had just given me a 3-day ultimatum. I needed combat power like I needed oxygen. We drank a few rounds, modest this time. The food crisis was weighing on everyone. Even Ironstone, the rowdiest dwarf I knew, was sipping quietly. I held myself to 2 beers. Tonight, I had an experiment to run. How long could I stay in Eldoris before getting pulled back? Every previous trip ended in death or blackout drunk. I had no idea if there was a natural time limit. The party broke up early. A guard showed me to a stone sleeping chamber. I lay on the stone bed thinking. The golden ingots from last trip? Couldn't sell them now. Suit guy's face kept flashing in my mind. He'd traced the coins to me in days. Those ingots would be a neon sign. I checked my wrist. Digital watch was broken. Again. Screen cracked, buttons dead. The calculator survived teleportation every time, but watches died without fail. Some kind of space-time interference? No way to know. No more watches on crossings. I fell asleep without realizing it. A guard's knock woke me up. Iron Dome's waiting. The training cavern. The training cavern was a massive natural cave, big enough for several basketball courts. Giant crystal lamps bolted to the walls. The dark red stone floor was covered in old hammer marks. Stone weights scattered in corners. Weapon racks lined with warhammers and battle axes. A squad of dwarf soldiers was running drills, the metallic clanging of their armor echoing off every surface. Iron Dome stood next to a 2-meter-tall, transparent crystal pillar. The base was solid black iron, carved with runes I couldn't read. "This is a universal talent testing crystal," he said. "Any being with cultivation potential, human, elf, beastman, even demons from the infernal realm and angels from the radiant realm, touches it, and it glows." I blinked. Wait, demons? Angels? Undead? Undead too. They light it up. They're technically from another world as well. My mental map of Eldoris just tripled in complexity. Humans, elves, dwarves, beastmen, dragons, magic beasts, those I knew. Now add demons, angels, and skeletons to the roster. And Iron Dome casually dropped that demons and angels were also from other dimensions? Was Eldoris some kind of interdimensional Grand Central Station? I filed that away under, think about later, and pressed my palm against the crystal. Deep inside the pillar, a faint ring of light appeared, then immediately went out. The weakest, saddest, most pathetic little flicker in the history of talent testing. Iron Dome looked at it, frowned, coughed. "Well, you can cultivate, but your talent is, he searched for a diplomatic word. Modest. You could probably reach beginner-level warrior." Eventually, my face collapsed like a demolished building. How bad are we talking here? Iron Dome crossed his arms and delivered the killing blow. With enough grinding, you could maybe crawl to beginner level. How long would that take? An even worse blow? Oh, about a few decades. I almost choked on my own spit. Decades? I had a 3-day deadline from a scary man in a suit. I needed combat power by Tuesday, not by retirement. Is there no shortcut? No fast track? Nothing? Iron Dome went quiet for a moment. His tone shifted, less joking, more careful. There is one way. Inheritance. When a powerful warrior dies, they can pour their lifetime of cultivation and combat experience into an inheritance scroll or artifact. Someone who absorbs it gains a portion of that power almost instantly. My heart jumped. But, he raised a finger, strong warriors choose talented successors. High talent means you absorb more. Low talent means less. And your talent. He didn't finish the sentence. The pause said everything. Your talent is so bad that even a legendary inheritance would give you table scraps. Cold water. Bucket of it. Right over my head. But I'd come too far to give up. Even if my ceiling was mediocre, mediocre was still better than helpless office worker who can't throw a punch. I pulled out my notebook and pen. Can you teach me the basics at least? I want to understand how the system works. Iron Dome spotted the gel pen. His eyes gleamed. He grabbed it, drew 2 lines on a stone slab. Smooth, clean ink flow. This is way better than quill pens. I'll bring you a whole box next time. That sealed the deal. Iron Dome launched into Battle Energy 101. I sat on a stone weight block and took notes on my knees like a college freshman in a weird, underground, medieval physics class. Battle energy is the external expression of life force. You convert internal vitality into controllable energy through breathing techniques and mental focus. Everyone has life energy inside them, but most people can never draw it out. You need a spark. That's the talent. My spark, based on the crystal test, was roughly the size of a birthday candle on a windy day. 3 stages of cultivation: sensing, meditate, and feel the energy. Moving inside your body. Condensing, gather it into a swirling core in your lower abdomen. Projecting, push it outside your body and coat your weapons or fists with it. Ranks from bottom to top: beginner, intermediate, advanced, expert, master, grandmaster, saint. Iron Dome was low-tier grandmaster, top combat power among dwarves. Saints? Maybe a handful alive on the entire continent. Battle energy has elemental attributes. Iron Dome was fire type, explosive, aggressive. Most dwarves were fire or earth. Dwarves had one racial weakness: they could never learn magic. Magic only existed in humans and elves. Beastmen went a completely different route: blood energy cultivation, using raw physical power to bulldoze everything. I drew a table: species, attributes, cultivation systems. Neat little grid. Iron Dome gave me a basic human sensing breathing manual and talked me through it. I sat cross-legged, closed my eyes, and tried to meditate. It went badly. My mind was a popcorn machine. Suit guy's face. Gold coin engravings. 3-day deadline. Parents fire. Was it really old wiring? Focus. Focus. Selling in the mountains. Is she alive? Focus. Stop thinking about random garbage and breathe. Iron Dome's roar echoed off every wall in the cavern. I flinched, reset, and tried again. Actually focused this time. 15 minutes in, I felt something. A tiny, warm trickle somewhere deep in my core, like a candle flame buried under 100 blankets. Following Iron Dome's guidance, I tried to push the warmth toward my arm. It moved, slowly, reluctantly, and got stuck at my elbow like traffic at a bottleneck. I forced it, pushed harder with pure willpower. A flash of incredibly faint light rippled across the surface of my fist, then vanished. Iron Dome stared at my hand. His eyebrows climbed. You have spatial attribute traces. Very faint, but definitely spatial. He said it the way a doctor says. Well, this is unexpected. Spatial attribute, he explained, was one of the rarest types of battle energy in all of Eldoris. At high levels, it could manipulate the fabric of space itself, create pocket dimensions, teleport mid-combat, and unleash something called a dimensional slash that basically cuts through reality and is unblockable. My jaw dropped. That sounded absolutely broken, overpowered, game-breaking. However, why is there always a however? At beginner level, spatial energy has almost zero offensive power. And since no dwarf in history has ever had spatial attribute, I can only teach you the basics. Spatial combat techniques? I don't know a single one. He clapped my shoulder in that bone-rattling way of his. Your talent is garbage, but spatial attribute is special. Keep practicing. I'll have my people look for any spatial cultivation manuals or combat techniques they can find. You'll become a real warrior eventually. I nodded, then asked the thing I really wanted to know. What about that inheritance thing? After training, Iron Dome brought me back to the hall. The inheritance thing would have to wait. Apparently, legendary power-ups don't just grow on trees. You have to find them. Add it to the to-do list, right between pay off massive debt and don't die. The Grand Elder was hunched over the stone table with a logistics officer, poring over maps marked with granary locations and inventory numbers. His eyebrows were tied in a knot that could anchor a ship. I listened for a while and finally pieced together the situation. The dwarves had about 3 months of food at normal consumption. But normal wasn't an option. The mining crews needed full rations to work, and the military guard absolutely could not be weakened with magic beasts constantly probing for weaknesses. Cutting civilian food rations was the only option, and that was a ticking time bomb. The last time beastmen and humans went to all-out war, it lasted 11 years. The human kingdom that got steamrolled was the exact one sitting between the dwarves and the elves. Now the elves would have to cross beastman-occupied territory to deliver grain, and Beastmen had a negotiation style best described as, take everything and punch you. Iron Dome sighed, his second sigh in my presence, which basically meant the apocalypse was happening, and muttered, if the teleportation arrays weren't all offline, we wouldn't be in this mess. I opened my mouth to say something, and my body lit up with a gentle glow. No warning, no countdown, just whoosh. Warm light wrapped around me like a cocoon, and before I could even wave goodbye, consciousness went dark. I blinked awake in the back room of my shop. 6 a.m. 6 hours had passed in the real world. My brain immediately started crunching. I'd been in Eldoris for what felt like a full day, sleeping, training, meetings, the whole thing. But here, 6 hours, which meant all those times I drank myself to death. Maybe I didn't actually die from alcohol. Maybe I just fell asleep over there, and after 6 real-world hours, the crossing automatically yanked me back. 6-to-1 time ratio. 6 hours here equals roughly 36 hours there. I grabbed my notebook and scribbled it down with a giant star next to it. Verify next trip. I sat in my chair and thought about the dwarves. They treated me like family. Iron Dome personally taught me combat basics, gave me priceless artifacts, trusted me with kingdom secrets. And now as people were staring down a famine, their problem wasn't just having food. It was growing food. If they could produce their own, no war could ever starve them again. Wait. A light bulb went off so bright I almost blinded myself. Back at my parents' old house, buried in my dad's dusty book collection, I'd spotted a farming manual. Practical skills for grain crop cultivation, soil improvement, cold-resistant crops, simple irrigation, and one glorious chapter on growing potatoes in poor mountain soil. Potatoes, the ultimate survival crop. Grows anywhere. Grows fast. Grows a lot. Stores forever. And the dwarf mountains? Rocky, mineral-rich soil with shallow topsoil, basically potato paradise. If earth plants could grow in Eldoris, and the wild ginseng from Trip 2 proved the biology was compatible, then I wasn't just trading trinkets between worlds anymore. I was transferring agricultural technology. This was bigger than gold, bigger than magic swords. This was civilization-level stuff. I immediately ordered the book online with express delivery, then bought 2 huge sacks of early maturing seed potatoes bred for poor soil. Spent until 9 a.m. shopping, then collapsed on my bed. Woke up at 8 p.m., ate a cup noodle, then sat on my bed and tried something I'd been wondering about since the training cavern. Could I practice battle energy cultivation here? In the real world? On Earth? I sat cross-legged, closed my eyes, followed Iron Dome's breathing method. 1 hour later, that tiny warm trickle appeared in my core again. Holy crap, it works! I nearly fell off the bed. Battle energy wasn't tied to Eldoris. It came from inside me. My body. My life force. Which meant I could train here, on Earth, every single day. The weakest, most pathetic cultivation talent in Eldoris history could still grind levels in 2 dimensions simultaneously. This changed everything. Battle energy wasn't just my fantasy world survival tool. It was my real-world trump card. Suit guy with his bodyguards might think he was dealing with a helpless office drone. Surprise. Skipped crossing that night. Supplies weren't ready yet. Next morning, jogged, opened shop, sold nothing. Revenue 0. My store was officially the least successful business in Beijing. But the back room of my store contained interdimensional treasure worth more than the entire block, so I wasn't too worried about foot traffic. Afternoon. Packages arrived. Seed potatoes, farming book, trading supplies. Sorted and packed everything. Money was getting tight. Couldn't sell the gold and silver ingots through normal channels because Suit Guy was watching. Might have to find a black market. Problems for tomorrow. Tonight, potato diplomacy. 11:30 p.m. Shutters down. Gear on. Crystal in hand. Necklace on neck. Midnight. Gone. Open my eyes on a beach. White sand, calm lake, gorgeous scenery. No monsters. No danger. Actually pleasant for once. Did I stop to enjoy it? Absolutely not. Crystal. Flash. Teleport. Dwarf Kingdom. The hall was empty. Guard told me Iron Dome, and the elders were in the big cavern doing inventory. I jogged over and found them arguing over supply lists with the enthusiasm of people watching their savings account hit 0. I didn't wait for them to finish moping. Stop arguing. I've got a food solution. I pulled the wrinkled farming book out of my backpack, slapped it on the stone table, flipped to the potato chapter, and shoved it in front of Iron Dome. He leaned in, squinting. Couldn't read a single Chinese character, obviously, but the colored pictures were universal: tuber plants, soil ridges, planting steps, harvest diagrams. What is this? Potatoes. Also called earth beans in my language. I pointed at the tuber illustration. An extremely high-yield food crop. 1 acre produces more than 3 seasons of your wheat. Iron Fist. Iron Dome's shout hit the cavern walls so hard the copper cups on the table hummed. The old master craftsman skidded in, clutching a half-finished blueprint. What's so urgent? I was studying that blast furnace diagram you. His eyes landed on the book. Sentence: abandoned. Blueprint: forgotten. He leaned over the table, fingers tracing the planting diagrams, flipping pages to the soil requirement illustrations. His cloudy old eyes started to glow. This plant doesn't need deep roots? Tuber growth? It can survive in shallow soil? His head snapped up. His voice was shaking. Yes, I said. 1 forearm's depth of soil is enough. And it actually prefers mineral-rich, poor-quality dirt. Iron Fist slapped his thigh so hard the sound echoed. The abandoned mine slopes. On the mountain outskirts. That's exactly this kind of soil. We tried growing wheat there decades ago. Couldn't even recover the seeds. Those slopes have been sitting empty for years. The Grand Elder finally caught up and stroked his beard gravely. Where do the seeds come from? And how long until harvest? Our stores last 3 months at best. I said nothing. Turned around. Dragged 2 enormous burlap sacks out of my backpack, untied the tops, and dumped a pile of dirt-covered seed potatoes onto the stone table. Seeds. Here. 2 cubic meters worth. Enough for 5 acres. I pointed at the little sprout eyes on the potatoes. Cut them into pieces. Each piece needs at least 1 sprout eye. Coat the cuts in wood ash to prevent rot. Bury them in soil ridges. Keep the ground moist. I paused. Looked Iron Dome dead in the eyes. Said it slowly. 3 months to harvest. 3 months? Iron Dome launched off his stone stool. His copper mug went flying, beer sloshing across the table. He didn't even notice. He stared at me. Confirmed I wasn't joking. Then slammed his fist into the stone table hard enough to shake the entire hall. Yes, finally, we don't have to fight through Beastman territory. How many brothers can we keep alive? The scouts sent to the Elven Forest had only left a day ago. Even if they made it through the war zone, round-trip communication would take weeks. Actual grain delivery? A month minimum, with casualties guaranteed. Potatoes would be ready right when the food ran out. Perfect timing. I watched the excitement ripple through the room and spoke up. Iron Dome. The seeds and all the farming knowledge. They're free. A gift to the dwarf kingdom. He froze mid-celebration. Kid, what do you want? Name it. If I can do it, it's done. Deep breath. I don't want gold. I don't want weapons. I just want one thing. Teach me battle energy cultivation until I can control spatial attribute on my own. Iron Dome smashed the table again. At this rate, the table wouldn't survive the week. If you give my people the ability to grow their own food, forget training. I'll give you a seat as guest elder of the dwarf kingdom, I laughed. Let's wait until the potatoes actually grow. Iron Dome shook his head, dead serious. My father used to say, real allies aren't bound by contracts. They're bound by debts they choose to owe each other. You teach us to farm. We teach you to fight. If this works, you're one of us. Next morning. Barely dawn. A crash woke me up. Iron Dome had kicked my door open, holding a mining pickaxe taller than me. Get up. Farming time. I stumbled outside, rubbing my eyes, and found 15 young dwarves already lined up with tools, practically vibrating with energy. They looked like they were gearing up for war, not agriculture. We marched to the abandoned mine slopes on the mountain's outer ring. I demonstrated the first cut on a seed potato, holding it up. Watch carefully. Each piece needs at least 1 sprout eye. Cut gently. Don't destroy the eye. The dwarves nodded seriously. Chop. A dwarf named Iron Hammer brought his blade down on a potato with the force of a man splitting a boulder. The potato exploded. Sprout eyes, annihilated. Potato, murdered. You idiot. The dwarf next to him, Iron Stone, smacked the back of his head. The king said gently, You think you're mining, or? Iron Hammer scratched his head sheepishly, grabbed another potato, and this time cut with exaggerated carefulness. The result was crooked and ugly, but the sprout eye survived. Progress. I went down the line checking each one, correcting technique, repeating, coat with wood ash. Prevents rot. Don't skip this step. The dwarves queued up to roll potato pieces in ash. Within minutes, every single one of them had ash-covered hands and ash-streaked faces. They looked at each other and burst out laughing. 15 battle-hardened miners and warriors, giggling like kindergartners doing an art project. Next, tilling. Use the hoe to loosen the topsoil lightly. Make ridges about half a foot tall. A dwarf grabbed his mining pickaxe and wham, buried it 2 feet into the ground, obliterating the ridge I'd just built. Stop! Stop, stop, stop! I grabbed his arm. This is farming, not demolition. Dial the power back. You're used to cracking mountains. I need you to tickle the dirt. The dwarf looked at me with genuine bewilderment. Farming doesn't need strength. Not that much strength. I grabbed a small hoe and demonstrated gentle, shallow strokes, just fluffing the surface. 15 dwarves tried to copy me. Their movements were stiff, robotic, and comically over-careful, like a team of bodybuilders trying to fold origami. I was biting my cheek to keep from laughing. It took the entire morning to plant all 5 acres. I straightened up, wiped the sweat off my forehead, and saw Iron Dome wave toward the distance. A crew of dwarves marched over carrying crystal lamps and mounting frames. They started installing lights along the edges of every soil ridge. I stared. Iron Dome. What's happening? He answered like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Lights at night. Sun during the day, crystal lamps at night. 24 hours of continuous illumination. Should make them grow faster. My jaw hit the floor. These maniacs were trying to run 24/7 artificial photosynthesis on potatoes. They'd taken we solved problems with more power, industrial philosophy, and applied it directly to agriculture. Wait. Stop installing. I sprinted over and physically grabbed a dwarf who was mid-screw on a lamp bracket. Iron Dome frowned. Why? More light equals faster growth, doesn't it? Potatoes need to sleep. His frown deepened. Plants. Sleeping? I kept it simple. 24-hour light makes the leaves go crazy, but the underground tubers stay tiny. Could even rot the roots. 12 hours of light per day. That's the sweet spot. Iron Dome blinked once, then immediately pivoted. You heard him. Half the lamps stay. Other half, take them down. Lights off at midnight sharp, back on at 6 a.m. Oh, and station the 2nd Legion here for guard duty. If a single magic beast touches these fields, I'm holding someone personally responsible, an entire military legion. Guarding potatoes. Only dwarves. By the time everything was adjusted, dusk had settled over the mountains. The remaining crystal lamps flickered on one by one. Cold white light spread across the neat soil ridges, turning half the mountainside into a glowing patchwork quilt. A line of light wound down toward the base of the mountain like a luminous river. 15 dwarves stood on the ridge, covered in sweat, leather aprons smeared with mud, yellow potato juice staining their fingers. Nobody cared about being dirty. Every single one of them was staring at the soil with an expression I'd never seen on a dwarf's face before. Hope. Iron Dome walked up beside me, arms crossed, looking down at the test fields. When he spoke, his voice was low and rough, with the faintest tremor. If this works, the dwarf kingdom will never fear a food blockade again. I opened my mouth to answer, and the golden light wrapped around me again. No warning. Mid-sentence. Iron Dome startled, then grinned and shook his head. Time's up again, huh? I managed to yell one thing before the light swallowed me whole. Don't forget to water the potatoes. I opened my eyes. Phone said 6 a.m. Again. 2 trips in a row, same time. That confirmed it. 6 hours in the real world equals 1 full visit over there. The drinking myself to death theory was officially dead. I wasn't dying from alcohol. I was just getting recalled after 6 hours, like a defective product being pulled off the shelf. I stretched, opened my laptop, and ordered another batch of seed potatoes plus some extra supplies. Then I checked my bank balance. Under 10,000 yuan. I stared at the number the way you stare at a spider on your ceiling at 3 a.m., with a profound sense of dread and helplessness. Millions in interdimensional gold and silver, and I couldn't sell any of it through normal channels because a mysterious suit-wearing man with bodyguards and lab connections was hunting for exactly that merchandise. Incredible. I was simultaneously rich and broke. Schrodinger's bank account. I spent 2 hours searching online for a black market. Found one, but it screamed, walk in, get robbed, disappear forever, hard pass. Instead, I went local. There was a second-hand antique peddler near my shop, a small-timer named Little Six. I bought him 2 cartons of cigarettes and 2 bottles of nice liquor, and casually asked if he knew anyone who could help move items that don't fit normal channels. Little Six pocketed the gifts and gave me a phone number. Call Old Smoke. Tell him Little Six sent you. Old Smoke picked a tea house on the south side of town. When I arrived at noon, he was already in a private room, skinny guy in his 60s, fingers stained tobacco yellow, wearing a faded jacket, sipping from a purple clay teapot like he had all the time in the world. He glanced at me once. "What V you got?" I put a silver coin on the table. Old Smoke took a sip from the teapot first, priorities, then picked up the coin with 2 fingers, held it to the window light, scratched it with his thumbnail, listened to the sound, and set it back down. Silver. Good purity. How many? About 16 silver coins. 2 gold ingots. Silence. 2 taps on the teapot. Silver at 70% of spot price. Gold at 80%. No receipts. No records. Cash only. I did the math instantly. Way below market value. But he wasn't asking questions, and right now silence was worth more than margins. Deal. We moved to a back room. I laid out 2 100-gram gold ingots and 16 silver coins. He tested every single piece, scratch, light, scale, then pulled stacks of cash from a canvas bag. 140,000. Count it. I didn't count. Stuffed it in my backpack. Old Smoke packed up the gold and silver, headed for the door, and stopped at the curtain. Didn't turn around. Be careful. Someone's sweeping the market. My spine tingled. Sweeping for what? He half-turned. Someone's buying up every doesn't look like Earth stuff, old coin, and artifact they can find. Unknown origin gold and silver. They're offering double what I just paid you. Before I could ask more, he was gone. Back at the shop, my brain went into overdrive. Double price for mystery coins? That wasn't a collector. That was someone trying to trace the source. And Suit Guy had said 3 days. Today was day 3. Deep breath. Stick to the story. Grandpa's collection. No evidence to prove otherwise. They can't do anything without proof. 2 p.m. The door opened. Bell jingled. A young guy walked in, late 20s, dark blue button-down, thin-frame glasses, carrying a briefcase. Looked like a university lecturer. Calm, scholarly energy. But I spotted it immediately, his stance. Weight balanced, feet positioned for instant movement. That's a fighter's habit. You don't learn that in a library. I'd seen Iron Dome's guards stand exactly like that. He slid a business card across the counter. Just a name, an organization, and a phone number. Mr. Chung, I'm Yi Jiqiu, researcher at the Institute for Unknown Ancient Civilizations. I'm interested in the gold coin you sold recently. Do you have any more writing samples like that? His questions were surgical. Precise. This guy knew exactly what he was looking for. I gave him the standard speech. Grandpa's stuff, passed away suddenly, no details about origins, sorry. Oh, no problem at all. He smiled warmly, zero pressure, and took a leisurely stroll around my shop, scanning the shelves of mundane daily goods and cheap decorations. Picked up a bottle of water, checked the label like it was a museum artifact, then brought it to the counter, placed 2 1-yuan coins beside it. Well, if you ever remember anything, feel free to contact me anytime. He walked out. The doorbell barely made a sound. I stared at that business card for a long time. Institute for Unknown Ancient Civilizations. Never heard of it. Searched online. No official registration. No government records. No entry in academic directories. Just a few scattered mentions on research forums. Privately funded organization. Unclear backing. Specializes in artifacts from unidentified civilizations. Rumored connections to top universities. And nothing else. Great. Suit guy with his threats and a shadowy research institute. My little coin-selling side hustle had attracted the attention of people way above my pay grade. I tucked the card into a drawer. Evening. Shutters down. Packing time. Old Smoke's 140,000 went fast. I'd already ordered the next round of supplies. Pins, mechanical watches, borax, lubricant, booze, and most importantly, seed potatoes. Filled the entire spatial ring with them. 5 acres was just the test run. If it worked, we were going industrial. Grabbed a new watermelon knife for backup. The last one got confiscated by dwarf engineers who were probably disassembling it molecule by molecule as we spoke. Set my alarm for 11:40 p.m., went to bed early at 9. I'd learned the hard way that Elderist time doesn't include nap breaks, and running on zero sleep in a world full of monsters was a recipe for death number. What was I on now? I'd honestly lost count. Alarm screamed. Jumped up. Washed face. Checked gear. Backpack on chest. Crystal in hand. 11:58. Eyes closed. Midnight. Gone. Opened my eyes to open ocean. I was standing on a rock in the middle of the sea. One step in any direction, and I'd be swimming with whatever nightmare fish lived in interdimensional waters. Nope. Crystal. Flash. Gone. Landed in the Dwarf King's Hall. Iron Dome was mid-meeting with the elders. He saw me materialize in my usual corner and just waved me over to sit down. The elders didn't even flinch anymore. My sudden appearances from thin air had become about as remarkable as someone walking through a door. How are the potatoes? Straight to business. Sprouted perfectly. Iron Dome's face actually relaxed, an expression I wasn't sure dwarves were physically capable of making. All 5 acres. Every single seedling came up. Crystal lamps running 12 hours a day, right on schedule. Second Legion on guard duty around the clock. Not even a bug gets through. He paused. His tone got complicated. There's just one thing. Iron Fist has stopped forging. What? He handed his workshop keys to his senior apprentice, and now he spends every day on the hillside. Squats on the field ridge with charcoal and parchment, drawing charts. He measures the seedlings with a tape measure. He touches the soil with the back of his hand to check the temperature. I've known this dwarf for over a century, and I've never seen him smile at dirt before. I nearly choked. The greatest forge master of the Dwarf Kingdom, a legendary craftsman whose hands had shaped weapons of mythic quality, had abandoned his anvil to become a potato farmer. I grabbed my notebook. How long since I left? About 3 days. Quick math. 18 real-world hours equaled 3 Eldorus days. That made the ratio roughly 1 to 4. 1 Earth hour equaled 4 Eldorus hours. Noted. Starred. Underlined. Okay, business talk. 5 acres was just a test. To achieve real food independence, you'll need way more. I brought a full ring of seed potatoes. But the short-term food gap still needs solving, and my 3 cubic meters of cargo space can't feed your army for a single meal. Do you have any larger spatial equipment? Iron Dome exchanged glances with the elders. In the corner, Grand Elder Iron Fury, who had been silent the entire meeting, slowly stood up. He reached down to his own hand, slid a ring off his finger, and placed it gently on the stone table. Pushed it toward me. Dark silver metal. Dense runic engravings. Noticeably heavier than my current ring. His voice carried a weight that matched the ring. My father left this to me. 100 cubic meters. I've worn it for nearly 200 years. The room went absolutely silent. You're solving our people's most fundamental problem. I have nothing else worthy enough to give. Take it. I pushed it back immediately. Grand Elder, this is too valuable. I can't accept. Take it. He pushed it right back. The void folk barely appear on this continent anymore. Spatial crystals grow scarcer every year. There aren't 3 people alive who can craft large-scale spatial equipment. But even something this rare isn't worth more than what you're doing for us. Iron Dome nodded beside him. Said nothing. Didn't need to. I picked up the ring. Slipped it on. It auto-fitted perfectly. I pushed my consciousness inside and my jaw dropped. A vast, clean, empty void. A warehouse worth of space. 100 times bigger than the storage pouch. I could fit a small apartment in there. I stood and bowed deeply to the Grand Elder. He waved me off. Go, come on. Let's go see the potatoes. Iron Dome led me outside the Great Hall and up to the mountain slopes. 5 acres of neat brown soil ridges spread across the hillside, dark earth contrasting with the reddish rock. And everywhere, tiny green shoots. Bright, healthy, standing up proudly in the breeze, 2 little leaves per sprout waving gently. Crystal lamps lined the ridges in perfectly straight rows. I couldn't stop grinning. They look amazing. Better than I expected. Iron Dome was smiling too. 100% germination rate. In the distance, a squad of armored dwarves patrolled the field borders with warhammers on their shoulders, an actual military guard protecting potatoes. Nearby, several off-duty miners squatted at the field edge, staring at the seedlings with the intensity of monks in meditation. What are they doing? These miners have spent their whole lives underground breaking rock. They've never seen anything grow this fast, except crops blessed by elven life spring water. Now they come here every day after their shift and just sit for half an hour, staring. They care more about these sprouts than they care about their own children. Iron Dome stopped walking and jerked his chin towards something ahead. Look, I followed his gaze and almost lost it. Master Iron Fist, legendary forge master, the dwarf whose hands had created some of the most celebrated weapons in Eldoris history, was crouched in front of a row of potato seedlings. Barefoot, pants rolled up to his knees, standing in the mud. He was gently, pushing soil away from a seedling's base with one finger, leaning in to examine the root hairs. Then he stood, pulled out a tape measure, carefully measured the seedling's height, and scribbled furiously on a crumpled piece of parchment. Then he squatted back down, pressed the back of his hand against the soil to feel the temperature, and stared at the sprout with an expression of focused devotion that probably exceeded what he'd shown when forging the Dwarf King's legendary warhammer. I bit my lip so hard I nearly drew blood, trying not to laugh. Then I deliberately raised my voice. Master Iron Fist, have you switched careers to agriculture? You look more dedicated than when you're forging divine weapons. Iron Fist's head snapped up. He saw me and Iron Dome, and a blush, an actual blush, crept across his weathered face. He hastily stuffed the parchment into his shirt and tried to brush the mud off his hands. Oh, kid, you're back. I walked over and patted dirt off his back. Master Iron Fist, you've really gone cross-disciplinary here. Before, one swing of your hammer could forge a blade that cuts through iron. Now one swing of your tape measure tells you a sprout grew 2 centimeters. Forget Master Forgesmith. We should call you Master Potato from now on. Iron Fist scratched his head sheepishly. Don't tease me, kid. These potatoes are our lifeline. I used to think forging the best weapons was the greatest thing I could do for our people. Now I understand. Making sure everyone eats? That matters more than anything. He pointed at the seedlings, eyes shining. Look how well they're growing. 2 more months, and they'll be producing tubers. When that happens, we'll never fear starvation again. I'm recording everything, growth rates, soil conditions, temperatures, so when we scale up, we'll know exactly how to get the best harvest. His voice dropped. In the past, whenever food ran out, the old dwarves would volunteer to go into the monster mountains on hunting expeditions. Most of them never came back. They sacrificed themselves so the younger ones could eat. I saw the faint shimmer in his eyes. The jokes died in my throat. Master Iron Fist, I said quietly, what you're doing right now is more important than forging any legendary weapon. Iron Dome nodded beside us. When the harvest comes, I'm personally awarding you the highest honor medal. Iron Fist gave an embarrassed laugh, then immediately squatted back down and resumed his notes. The same hands that had shaped weapons of war were now tenderly sheltering tiny green seedlings, and with them, the future of the entire dwarf kingdom. Back in the training cavern, Iron Dome put me through battle energy drills. I sat cross-legged, regulated my breathing, and went internal. The spatial energy was noticeably stronger than last time. I could feel it without even closing my eyes now. Definitely benefiting from double world training. Practice in Eldoris, practice at home, rinse, repeat. I pushed the energy toward my arm. It flowed smoother, faster. Hit the elbow bottleneck. Still stuck, but the jam lasted much shorter than before. Still getting blocked at the elbow. Patience. Your talent isn't great, but put in the work and you'll get there. You've only been at this for how long? You're already ahead of my expectations. Coming from a Grandmaster-level Dwarf King, that almost counted as a compliment. Training was wrapping up when a guard sprinted into the cavern at full speed, dropped to one knee, and gasped, Your Majesty. Urgent report from the mountain entrance. I'm chilling in the Dwarf King's hall when a scout burst in looking like he just ran a marathon through a volcano. Turns out the Minotaur tribe went full rage mode on the human Diana kingdom because some genius prince thought it'd be a great idea to hunt down the Minotaur chief's youngest son and hang his head on a horse like a trophy. Yeah, that happened. Every dwarf in the room went pale. Apparently on this continent, killing a chief's kid is like pressing the nuclear button. You just don't. And now the Minotaurs have conquered the entire northern region, completely cutting off the dwarves' food supply route and parking their kobold lackeys right outside the mountain entrance like the world's ugliest toll booth. Iron Dome is furious. He's slamming orders. Deploy 100,000 warriors, smash anything that comes close. But everyone knows the math is bad. The Dwarf Mountains are basically surrounded on 3 sides now. East and north. Monster Mountains. South. Ocean. West. Minotaur territory now. They're boxed in like sardines in a very angry can. While all this war council drama is happening, a messenger taps my shoulder. My 3 sets of armor are done. I rush to the workshop and holy mother of craftsmanship. 2 female sets, 1 male, all in elven silver style. The chest plates have vine engravings. The shoulder pieces are layered arc-shaped leaves. The bracers have intricate silver wire inlays, and each set weighs barely 5 kilograms. Lighter than a winter jacket. The inside is covered in hidden rune arrays that maintain the toughness and weight reduction. But if the runes break, they become useless thin iron sheets. Smart anti-theft feature, honestly. I stuff all 3 into my spatial ring and head back to the hall. Iron Dome sees me and starts listing problems on his fingers. Experimental fields, planting expansion, orc surveillance, contacting the elves. I cut in. I can transport supplies between worlds. If I can teleport to the elves' territory, I'll use positioning crystals to set up a direct link between your 2 races. Iron Dome shakes his head with this tired sigh. Turns out positioning crystals are basically extinct on this continent. The entire dwarf kingdom only has 5 left. He and the Grand Elder each have 1 bound to the capital's core location. 1 was given to me, and the last 2 are reserved for future kings. Can't move them. And even if they gave 1 to the elves, no race would let an outsider teleport freely into their heartland. Iron Dome tells me the only reason they trust me is because dwarven secret arts can sense a person's heart. And apparently mine is clean and pure, like untempered iron. I don't know if that's a compliment or if he just called me basic, but I'll take it. Right then, the teleportation light wraps around me again. Iron Dome doesn't even stand up this time. He just raises his copper mug and goes, "Bring some good wine next time." I manage to yell, "Okay," before consciousness cuts out. Eyes open. Storage room. Phone says 6 o'clock. Again, time ratio confirmed. 1 real-world day equals 4 days in the other world. I write it down in my notebook like the responsible interdimensional businessman I am, then crash back to sleep. Wake up at noon, place my usual orders, walk outside, and then it hits me. I've been hauling mountains of supplies into this shop for weeks without a single sale going out. Anyone watching would think I'm running the world's worst money laundering operation. So I rent a box truck, park it right in front of the shop, pack some empty cardboard boxes, and make a big show of loading them up like I'm shipping out a massive order. Drive to some wasteland outside the city, dump the boxes, drive back empty. Oscar-worthy performance. Then I pull out the 3 armor sets and display them front and center in the shop as cover. See? I'm a legitimate armor dealer. Nothing suspicious here. Around 3 p.m., I'm behind the counter scrolling through shipping updates for my seed potatoes when the door opens. 2 girls walk in, and my brain does a brief system reboot. The one in front is tall, long black hair, white t-shirt, and denim shorts, face like she stepped off a magazine cover with this cool, slightly lazy vibe. The one behind her is shorter with a bob cut, big round eyes, cartoon hoodie, radiating pure chaotic energy. They're carrying fans and shopping bags from the antique market, clearly just wandered in to buy water because my shop, Aldous Trading Company, looks wildly out of place between the bubble tea shops and snack stands. Short-haired girl Zhao Xiaolei grabs 2 bottles of water from the fridge, scans the shelves with 0 interest, starts to leave, and then freezes. She spotted the armor. Cloud Shijia, look at this. Long-haired girl Luo Yunxi turns around, and they both just stare. The silver armor is gleaming under the lights, vine engravings, layered leaf shoulder plates, silver wire bracers, the whole fantasy package. Can I touch it? Xiaolei asks, hand hovering in midair. Sure. You can try it on too. They're for sale. Her eyes light up like I just told her Christmas came early. They take turns going to the bathroom to suit up, and when Yunxi walks out wearing the armor, I'm genuinely impressed with Iron Anvil's work. The silver plates fit her perfectly. The vine reliefs flow from chest to waist. The layered shoulder pieces make her neck look elegant, and the leaf-patterned skirt armor sways with each step. With her black hair against the silver, she looks like an actual elven warrior who teleported into my shop. Xiaolei comes out next, and with her short hair, she's giving fierce female knight energy. Standing together, they look like an elven ranger and an elven swordswoman, and I'm starting to think I accidentally opened a fantasy cosplay boutique. Turns out these two are cosplay enthusiasts who came to the antique market specifically looking for ancient-style accessories. Yunshi even clocks that the armor is genuinely hand-forged with traditional methods. She's seen Japanese workshop pieces and knows this is different. No artificial aging, no sandblasting, just raw preserved forging patterns. I'm mildly terrified by how knowledgeable she is, but keep it cool. Yeah, an old master craftsman I know made these. Then Xiaolei drops the bomb. We'll take them. Name your price. Both female sets plus all the jewelry. I'm taking them home today. I'm scrambling internally because the production cost in the other world was basically nothing. Some ore and a few days of dwarf labor paid for with friendship. But in this world, this level of handcrafted fantasy armor could go in a museum. Price too high, scare them off. Price too low, look suspicious. So I go with the galaxy brain move. How much do you think they're worth? They huddle up, whisper for like 10 seconds, and Xiaolei turns back around with the most casual expression ever. 2 sets of female armor plus all the jewelry on that counter. 2 million yuan. Oh, and that male set on the wall too. Add another million. 3 million total. If it's not enough, we can go higher. 3 million yuan. I was hoping for maybe 2 or 300,000. My brain blue screens for several seconds. I pinch my thigh under the counter. Pain, definitely not dreaming. I'm using every single muscle in my face to maintain a calm expression while my soul is doing backflips in another dimension. And just as I'm about to respond, the shop door gets slammed open. 3 people walk in. Seriously? I'm in the middle of a 3 million yuan deal, and now we get walk-ins? And of course it's that middle-aged guy from before, Hu Jihao, the one who came snooping about my coins. He walks in flanked by 2 bodyguards like he's some kind of discount mafia boss. Those armors are mine, he announces, then locks eyes with me with this slimy smirk. Hey kid, remember I gave you 3 days? You've got guts keeping this shop open. My heart drops. This was not a coincidence. This guy's been staking out my shop like a creepy ex-boyfriend. But before I can even open my mouth, Yunshi steps up first. What do you mean yours? We were here first. Xiaolei plants herself right next to Yunshi like a tiny battle formation. Yeah, we already agreed on a price. Hu Jihao does this disgusting little chuckle. On what grounds? I'm from the Hanluan group. You 2 little girls can't afford to offend me. He doesn't even look at them when he says this. Just keeps staring at me like I owe him money, which I guess in his mind I do. Yunshi's eyes go sub-0. Hanluan group? Is that supposed to impress me? And then Xiaolei does something beautiful. She casually pulls out her phone, scrolls through her contacts, and calls someone. The shop is dead quiet, so we all hear the conversation. Bro, your little sister is being bullied. You gonna do something about it? The voice on the other end practically explodes. Where are you? I'm coming right now. Who dares? Some guy from Hanluan Group. Very arrogant. Hanluan Group is nothing. Wait for me. Xiaolei hangs up and waves her phone at Hu Jihao with the smuggest little humph I've ever witnessed. Hu Jihao laughs it off. He clearly has no idea which Zhao family she's from. Ooh, the little girl called for backup? I'd love to see who shows up. Then he turns on me, dropping the pretense. Kid, your 3 days are up. Time to talk. I lean against the counter, arms crossed, trying to channel every ounce of cool I don't actually feel. Talk about what? I told you. Those coins were my grandfather's collection. He steps closer. The bodyguards move with him. The air in my shop gets real thick. Yunshi, still wearing that silver elven armor by the way, steps between us looking like an actual fantasy warrior princess about to draw her sword. You're a grown man threatening people? This is a society of law. Keep this up and I'm calling the police. Hu Jihao spreads his hands theatrically. Call them. Go ahead. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm just shopping. What are the police gonna do? And that's when we all hear it. Engine roar. Coming from the main avenue. Getting louder. I look through the glass door and see a Rolls-Royce leading a convoy of Mercedes G-Wagons. One after another after another. Over a dozen of them. They line up along the curb outside my humble little shop like a presidential motorcade parked at a lemonade stand. The Rolls-Royce door opens. A young man steps out. Mid-20s, tailored dark gray suit. The kind of natural confidence that says, I was born on third base and I know it. He glances at the crowd, which parts like the Red Sea, and strides toward my shop. His voice arrives before he does. Who dares bully my sister? Does someone want to die? Xiaolei's face lights up like a Christmas tree. Bro, You're here. She grabs his arm and points directly at Hu Zhihao. Him. He tried to bully me, and Cloud Shijia called us little girls too. Zhao Lihai follows her finger to Hu Zhihao, and then, mid-scan, his eyes land on Yunxi standing there in that silver elven armor. He freezes. This man just rolled up with a fleet of luxury vehicles and an army of bodyguards to defend his sister's honor, and his brain just blue-screened at the sight of a pretty girl in fantasy armor. Yunxi, he walks right past his own sister. 3 steps to Yunxi. You look absolutely stunning today. Yunxi blushes slightly and takes a half-step back. Oh, stop. Xiaolei behind him is livid. She yanks his arm so hard he stumbles. Zhao Lihai, you simp. The second you see Cloud Shijia, you forget your own sister exists? I'm telling mom and dad. That snaps him back to reality real fast. Nothing terrifies a rich young master more than his mom finding out he's a simp in front of witnesses. He immediately course corrects with a nervous laugh. Of course not. My precious baby sister. You're also beautiful. An absolute fairy. Now who bullied you? Big brother will handle it. She points at Hu Zhihao again. And oh boy. The second Hu Zhihao got a clear look at Zhao Lihai, all the color drained from his face like someone pulled a plug. Zhao Lihai, eldest grandson of the Zhao family, one of the 8 great families of the capital. The guy who just said, the Zhao family is nothing, is now standing 3 meters from the Zhao family's heir. High. Young Master High. His voice drops about 4 octaves. All that swagger? Gone. Evaporated. His 2 bodyguards quietly take a half-step backward. I didn't know she was your sister. The great flood washed away the Dragon King's temple. Let me apologize right now, he bows to the girls. I'm so sorry, it was my fault. Xiaolei fires back instantly. Who are you calling miss? Your whole family are Mrs. in Chinese. Xiaojia can mean miss or something much less polite. Hu Zhihao just walked into a linguistic landmine. He turns even whiter and starts groveling to Zhao Lihai, dropping some name, Master Bao, saying he was just following orders. Please have mercy. Zhao Lihai's response is ice-cold and completely casual. Messing with my sister? Tell Huang Wenbao he's done. Hu Zhihao practically sprints out of my shop backward, his bodyguards shuffling behind him. One of them almost trips on the door threshold. I watch them flee and feel a boulder lift off my chest. With the Zhao family flag planted in my shop, those guys won't be coming back anytime soon. Then Zhao Lihai turns to Yunxi and his scary rich kid face melts into full puppy dog mode. He's offering her water, adjusting buckles on her armor, being the world's most attentive simp, while Xiaolei rolls her eyes so hard I'm worried they'll get stuck. Okay, whatever. Xiaolei walks up to my counter, done with her brother's nonsense. He said 5 million, so 5 million. Give me your bank details, I'm transferring now. 5 million. We started at 3 million, and somehow the price went up because Big Brother wanted to flex? I'm struggling to keep my hands steady as I pull up my bank account number. She taps her phone for about 60 seconds, turns the screen toward me. Transfer successful. 5 million and change. Zeros stretching across the screen like a parade. My bank sends a confirmation text almost simultaneously. I stare at that message for a solid 5 seconds. I went from being in debt to having 5 million yuan in the span of one afternoon. In a shop that hasn't sold a single item until today. Zhao Lihai tries on the male armor set, and honestly, the dude looks good. The silver-gray plates match his tall frame perfectly. The elven shoulder pieces widen his silhouette, and when he picks up a decorative greatsword from my wall and throws it over his shoulder, even I have to admit, that's main character energy right there. Yunxi takes a photo of him. The man's day is made. Possibly his year. After all the fun, the bodyguards pack everything into protective wooden cases and load them into the convoy. The fleet of luxury cars rolls away with the same dramatic energy it arrived with, blocking half the street on exit. The bubble tea shop lady next door is standing in her doorway with a straw hanging from her mouth, face frozen in pure bewilderment. Before leaving, Zhao Lihai hands me a business card, just a name and a phone number, nothing else, and says the male armor was great but the shoulders and waist need adjusting for his build. He wants a custom set. Then he transfers another 2 million as a deposit. Pick up in 2 weeks. 2 more million. I put his card in the drawer next to Yijichio's card and sit back down behind my counter. The antique city goes quiet again. I look at my phone. The bank messages are still there. I swipe them away and pull up my seed potato supplier to place the next order. Business as usual. Interdimensional potato logistics wait for no man. What a day? From dead silence to a three-way standoff to a luxury car convoy to 7 million yuan in total. My shop finally had its grand opening, and it was spectacular. Not from selling coins. Not from selling gold. From dwarf-forged elven armor. I flip my notebook to a fresh page and right under, reality timeline. Custom armor order accepted. Zhao Lehigh deposit, 2 million. Next crossing, submit body measurements to Iron Dome. Commission iron anvil for custom set. Also, buy more seed potatoes. Dwarf food shortage. Short-term fix with spatial ring deliveries. Long-term fix with expanded farming. I put the pen down and look up at the wall. There's a family photo hanging above the shelf. 3 people smiling together. But some things still need to be dealt with. After the excitement dies down, I sit behind my counter staring at the bank notifications, and reality hits me like a cold shower. 7 million sounds amazing until you remember taxes exist. After deductions, I'm looking at around 5 million actual usable cash. I pull out my notebook and start planning like the responsible interdimensional entrepreneur I am. Step 1. Go to the tax office tomorrow and declare this income properly. I am not getting busted for tax evasion while running an illegal cross-dimensional trade operation. One crime at a time, people. Step 2. Rent a warehouse. My spatial ring holds 100 cubic meters, but I'm about to be moving serious volume. Seed potatoes, grain, oil, medical supplies, alcohol, and whatever fantasy goods I bring back. I need a 500 square meter warehouse out in the suburbs as my staging area. Step 3. Budget the money. 2 million for purchasing supplies. Set aside warehouse rent and deposit, and the rest goes to crushing my debt. I clear out every single high-interest credit card, online loan, and consumer loan. Gone. Deleted. Obliterated. Months of debt collectors harassing me, and now I'm down to just a little over 1 million in remaining loans. The weight on my shoulders drops by like 70%. I can actually breathe again. That evening my phone rings. It's Xiaolei. Boss chum. Those elven silver accessories are gorgeous. Cloud Shijia hasn't taken off that vine necklace since she put it on. Can you get us more? I play it cool. Sure, but you'll have to wait. The old master craftsman schedule is completely booked. Translation. I need to cross into another dimension and ask a dwarf king to have his best smith hammer out more jewelry. Normal supply chain stuff. She's thrilled and says there's no rush. We hang up. Not 5 minutes later, the shop door opens and in walks Yijiqiu. Miss, I study things that shouldn't exist, herself. She grabs a bottle of water, drops 2 coins on the counter, and chats casually about weather and foot traffic like we're old pals. Then she drops the bomb. Mr. Chung, the writing on your gold coins is remarkably similar to a set of ancient text I've been studying. That text comes from an unconfirmed archaeological site in South America. The dating results don't fully align with any known civilization's timeline. She says this like she's commenting on the weather while my spine turns into an ice column. I force a smile. What a coincidence. She doesn't push. Just takes her water and leaves. I sit there in silence for a long time. Don't fully align. In academic speak, that means we literally cannot explain this. So her Mystery Research Institute is actually studying things that don't belong on Earth. And my coins just match their samples. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Not terrifying at all. Meanwhile, and I don't know this yet, but I'll find out later, over at Hanluan Group headquarters, Huang Wenbao is sitting in his fancy leather chair being very unhappy with Hu Zhihao. But even he knows better than to mess with the Zhao family over some coins. He tells Hu Zhihao to back off from me, but to quietly buy back every single gold and silver coin I sold on the market. Grandpa Huang's birthday is coming up, and the old man collects currencies. Only problem? 6 of those coins got bought by the Zhihou family's second daughter, as in another one of the 8 great families. Huang Wenbao pinches the bridge of his nose. Rich people problems. Back at the Zhao estate, things get hilarious. Grandpa Zhao Jinhong, 76 years old, back straighter than a steel beam, lifelong antique collector with an entire floor of the mansion dedicated to his collection, comes shuffling into Zhao Lihai's room because he heard his grandson caused a traffic jam at the antique market with 14 luxury vehicles. He takes one look at the armor and goes completely still. The old man puts on his reading glasses, runs his fingers along the vine engravings, counts every single overlapping leaf on the shoulder plates, flips the bracers over to examine the silver wire patterns, and his voice starts shaking. This isn't machine-made. Modern stamping can't produce these forging patterns. This is hand-hammered, and not ordinary hand-hammering. Every strike has life in it. Different depths, different weights, different rhythms. I've lived 76 years and never seen a second craftsman capable of this. Then he spots the leaf earrings dangling from Xiaolei's ears. Xiaolei, take those off and let Grandpa see. She claps her hands over her ears. Grandpa, I know. Cloud Shijia picked these for me. I just want to look, you said. That about Mom's jade bracelet too, and you still haven't given it back. The old man coughs, defeated by his own granddaughter. But she eventually hands over the earrings and bracelet. He examines them under the light, muttering to himself about how the metalwork fuses two styles he's never seen combined before, not in Eastern or Western ancient civilizations. An old master craftsman in a tiny shop? He looks skeptical. Someone who can forge at this level? There aren't more than a handful on the entire planet. Then he drops two words, how interesting, and walks out. At the door he pauses. Lehigh, next time you visit that boss Chung, tell me. Oh, great. Now I've got the Zhao family patriarch interested in my shop. The walls are closing in from every direction, and I haven't even left Earth yet today. Night falls. My supplies arrive. Over 10 tons of seed potatoes hauled in by truck.